got to tell you, Houston weather has
humid.
been
Just moved into a new place, so trying to take advantage of the space that I have out here.
okay. I got to tell you, Houston weather
Can you hear
has
me?
been special. Yeah, you're still lagging a bit. You're still lagging a bit, but we do hear you.
Let me see if I can. Okay. Maybe if I do this. You know, we were talking crap about WhatsApp earlier, um, and WhatsApp almost crashed my computer just a minute ago. So perhaps perhaps that has something to do with it.
Oh shit! Look who showed up in the
So
chat.
now let's go low latency here.
Look who showed up in the chat.
All right, how's that? Seems a little bit better.
Your audio is good, bro. I can't speak to the video, but the audio is functional.
Okay, good to go. As long as we can hear me.
All right.
I got
Y'all
my
let me
shades
know
on.
in the
Y'all don't
chat
need to see
if,
me. I can see y'all.
if stuff is off. Okay, so
Man,
everybody want to take a look.
So
at
how's
the stock
everybody's
trap.
year to date doing? That's
Oof, bro. Why you got to do me like that, bro? I mean,
I'm just saying. I mean, I think that's one of the important parts of all of us coming together is to be able to share the camaraderie and what we have going or not going.
oof, what just crushed me today? I didn't see this number earlier. Oof, your boy's down 50K today. Which, look, you can handle being down 50K in a day, which is like 1.2%, right? Whatever. But it's like, bro, just can we stop with the 1% down days? Like give me a day back. And the crazy thing is, I was up with like an hour left to go in the market. I was totally green. Then we ended up like minus big. I don't even know what happened because I was started doing other stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's funny though
just
because
meta?
when
was it just meta that just like tanked everybody?
I think the whole market is just tanking everybody. It's taken it's taken an easy breather, letting everybody know maybe we shouldn't be adding all of the time.
Well, we're trying to tell you can't just continue to buy the dip.
No, you know, you can't really continue to buy on the upswing either, though. It seems strategy is needed more now than it has in the past, and we've been spoiled. If you've been in the markets in the last 5 years, like we've been spoiled so much, and you know, I've been spoiled. I haven't really had experience in the markets outside of euphoric run-ups and just parabolic numbers that happen months over month. But you know, I read a lot and I look at historical facts, and I think that some of those old school antics that everybody looks down upon are probably some of the wisdom that we should take into our practice at the moment, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty and everybody just is hungry and so used to just adding on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Well, you know, the market is having to deal with the fact right now that you know, there used to be this meme when you and I were growing up, the revolution will not be televised.
Right.
Right. Well, it's the AI data center build out will not be happening. Right. I mean, we had a lot of of expectation that there was going to be a lot of technical work being done to build out the AI infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure that all this AI stuff was going to roll on. But it turns out that Team Blue and popular sentiment, probably supported by China, has effectively turned sentiment against data center construction, gotten it banned in all kinds of places, gotten it stopped. So why are we continuing to commit CapEx to projects that are not going to get built? And you know what that ultimately means is the bottleneck that a lot of this semi and photonics and all this other trade is based on. That bottleneck's not really going to exist because the data centers aren't going to get built, or they're going to get built over a much longer timeline. So there's not going to be this crazy demand for all these products that are just unobtainium.
Right. Not only that, but it seems to where the data centers are so massive to where nothing really would kind of stand in their way. But you're finding that the small people are also standing in its way, even if the small people don't understand, right? And I'm not saying that the small people just need to be run over, but
they definitely don't understand.
Right. I mean, and I totally agree with that. But you're finding that small voices are being corralled. And even though those small voices might not be one of the issues is why these data centers aren't getting the procurement that they should, need, and everybody thought we're going to get, it's filling in some of those voids of people not understanding why the data centers aren't getting built in the first place. And that's the other people. That's us, the investors that are like, well, why isn't it happening? What's going on? And you start to hear some of these sidebar conversations where you're like, man, is it really the pushback? Are data centers bad? You start having some of these things that pull at your heartstrings a little bit. Like, man, maybe it is gonna mess up the power for everybody in the neighborhood. Or
I never understood though where the Facebook posts of it's like a picture of farmland and it's no data center is worth this. And I'm like, why do we think that that's the binary choice here? Like,
right.
There's other places to put a data center than on a farm.
Yeah,
it's more like you can put it in places that people aren't using the land. There's plenty of land.
Plenty of land out there. And there's plenty of shitty land out there. A lot of people have land out there too that is just non-usable. It's non-farmable, right? Like you can't have a regenerative farming process or practice,
or it would need crazy like irrigation to make it arable, right? So we can just run a power line out there and a single water line just so they can fill their tank, and then it's closed loop, so it's not like they're constantly using water. This is not this isn't fracking, y'all. This is the cleanest possible business available. Because so what are your alternatives if you want to bring big industry into a locale that's going to bring any number of jobs, certainly tax revenue, things like that, right? Well, you want to build a refinery, you want to build a chemical plant, you want to build an auto plant. Do you have any idea the amount of heavy trucks, heavy equipment that are going to be rolling on your roads? Like you're going to have to close down all your roads for years to improve them, just so that the heavy trucks driving chemicals and raw materials in and out of that plant. A data center is like, once it's built, it's just electricity, bro. Like you're good.
And it might have other things that can benefit off of it that we haven't even we haven't even factories, they find ways to utilize waste or, you know, heat or energy or carbon or all of these other aspects. There might be some stuff that comes out of data centers that drastically improves production levels or processes, um, management, roads, infrastructures, all of the things that have kind of the pushback now. You might see a lot of funding that goes into those things to where it makes it actually viable and people don't have to lobby and fight and have mafias that control who gets what construction bid, and how long road maintenance gets and takes. We see that all the time, right? Like construction companies fixing roads for years. I know I do here in Miami. We have a serious problem over here, and some of the same shitty roads are the same shitty roads. But when you see somebody build a condo and they get 50 billion out of it or whatever, hey, those roads around that entire place, like, they're nice. Those city parks that used to be shitty that are anywhere within the 2 mile radius of that now have funding, and now they have water parks and they have new slides and new swings, and they're full of kids now. So I don't know, man. It's a bunch of people. Everybody wants to complain. I'm not gonna knock the people that do complain, but I mean, it's just like you said, just a bunch of Facebook bullshit going on, a bunch of posts on uh, trolling the trolls, and then the people trolling the tolls.
Yeah.
Nobody's happy with anything, and everybody has a right and an ability to complain about something because there's a myriad of things that are just in lieu right now that seem shitty.
Yeah. Well, Team Blue had to do it because the worst thing that could possibly happen is for Team Red to have a successful AI build out during their 4 years and then go on to win another cycle. And it was like, hey, our plan worked.
Yeah,
that had to be stopped at all costs.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. I try to stay away from siding with one political party versus the other, but I don't understand why there's so many sticks being thrown in the bicycle spokes of what could be just for the sake of damaging the other party. It seems to me a little hostile and definitely confusing for anybody who calls themselves a voter, right?
Yeah. Can't let the other team get a W, because that would be good. That would be good for the American people because you might lose.
I don't get it. I really don't. And I've done international relations and geopolitical stuff, and I just look at it and I'm like, it's like a Civil War light around Congress. It's kind of like, what the hell is really going on, and why is there so many people just opposing so many things just because? I really don't see the pros and cons of the opposition just to kind of shit on the other guy. That's what it really seems like. It's just that
is what it is. It's just make sure the other team doesn't get a W, and the American people do not get a W from the other team.
Right. I mean, I don't think that many people would have a problem. Honestly, I don't think that many people would have a problem with changing jerseys if everybody was winning. Right? Just change the jersey for the season. You got 1, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. Okay, your quarterback's going to go somewhere the 3rd or 4th year. He's going to be too expensive. He's won too many trophies. All right, you're going to have to put a new jersey on. So, I don't know, man. But I mean, it is the times, right? Like media and social media platforms are purveyors of this style of smearing, and it's so easy to troll, and it's hilarious at the same time. You get great bits out of it. You get great comedy. You get great drinking conversations, and
most of it's rage bait,
camaraderie. It's rage bait for sure. That's all it is.
When I see the mayor of a pretty far / small suburb of Houston, who's also like 30 years old, so I have no idea what they're doing as a mayor. Like, what's wrong with you people? You elected a child,
right?
Bragging that he got multiple data center projects canceled. And he's on Team Red, by the way. Like, what are we doing? Like, what has happened? How have we lost the plot so completely that we can't even say, oh yeah, this is an amazing new opportunity for people up and down the economic spectrum to buy in and get this, the benefit from all this capital expenditure that these hyperscalers who have just sucked all the money out of the economy for the last decade and a half, they're going to have to start spending money on Caterpillar, on Mundy Corporation, on, they're going to have to start paying welders and electricians. They're going to have to start paying real workers, who make real wages, to build all these projects. Right. And now all of a sudden, oh no, we can't have that. Lord knows we can't have that. Right. So we end up saying that, well, there's this false bottleneck out there now with all this, in memory and chips, and so we're paying, we're saying that we're paying, an 80% margin on memory, and I'm like, that means that's just money going to cash to the fat cat's pockets. It means only 20%, right. 20 cents on the dollar that Google is spending on their CapEx is actually acquiring memory. 80% of that is going to a fat cat pocket.
Yeah.
Or investors, however you want to say. Yeah, so if I own Micron, I get a tiny piece of that as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that too is kind of politic and lobbying to try and build up what we have here in country so that we're not so reliant on a lot of things. And I think that, from my perspective is that capital has a destination, and it seems that a lot of people are asking, like, where is the money going? But the real question might be better understood if it's, where is the capital allowed to go? Right? Like
fair
you said,
question.
Like
what can you even get permitted for right now?
Right. So I mean, you got insurance companies, you got mutual funds, you got sovereign wealth, insurance companies and banks. I mean, it's all operated under a mandate, right? Like it's not just people are just stuffing a bunch of money in a pillowcase and then running out the door with it, or looking at places where, like, oh, I'm allowed to do this. No, there's rules to the game, a little bit, a large bit, and there might be some that go out the back door for sure, but you got a lower risk that's going to affect the pension. I mean, you got hundreds of billions of bucks that can move regardless if Apple's a great company or not. So I think that portfolio constraints are more than just opinions these days, where there are actual avenues that the bread has to go before real money can be made and put back on the table. And I think that that's something that we're seeing right now. We saw so much silly money going around when, after COVID, and the Democrats were just throwing cash out there, which was great, right? I mean, we all benefited from it. Anybody who's been in the markets is just seeing it seems like, why not get into the market? You're gonna double, triple your money. I mean, it's been a great hustle, right? Like, you could just get some money out, throw it into the market. I mean, you almost really didn't have to pick great companies. You could have picked anything that was just starting.
You could have made money in C3.ai. Like, I mean,
yeah, no doubt. So I like to think that we have smart investors out there, and I mean, I see a lot of us in the chat. I see us in a Mitch chat. Other guys' chats that are out there too, that kind of like all have some of us rotating in and out of all of these. And I know that we're smart, and I see a lot of the other people that I have no idea who they are, and they're intelligent as well. But going on to pay attention to understanding what the narrative should be versus what it could be. Um, and that affects like liquidity and capital to me. And so those are two areas that I look at and I try and understand a little bit differently. Like where can it go? How can it go? And then how can that be a beneficial thing? Or I like the bull case and the bear case. They both explain a lot. But a lot of these companies too have just straight wild valuations. I don't get how a lot of the valuations are out there, and I'm not mad because I'm benefiting off of quite a few companies that have just valuations that are don't fit the traditional finance structure of how they got to where they are. So um, it's an interesting conundrum that everybody seems to be stuck in and not really trying to understand it. I really think that that's one of the things is that a lot of us are out there not trying to understand it. We're trying to keep up with what's going on because it's moving so fast. It seems like everything's moving so fast. Just
algorithmic
2-3 weeks
trading
ago,
has made
right.
things happen in 5 minutes that used to take 3 days.
Right. I mean, how are you going to be a stock worth $100 and then trade at $70? Like, because the buyers disappear. They're chasing something else that everybody else is chasing. It really, it really is like the wild west right now, and you have somebody out there selling a bunch of oil or whatever kind of doodads and whatever they pull up with their wagon, and everybody's just running from wagon to wagon. It seems like that. And I get it, right? You gotta go where the momentum is and what is getting the attention. And I'll say it all here, like it's important to be integrated into what's going on in the community. It's exciting. Like it produces a level of involvement that past markets haven't seen, and that's why the retail investor is so important right now, is because there's stuff to get excited about on the day-to-day versus just what the hell's in the news or what new Netflix series is out or whatever Tom, Dick, and Jerry are talking about. Like there's a lot of stuff that's out there, and if you pay attention, or like I said, you don't have to pick a great company. You just pay attention to what's the topic, and you're gonna do okay in it. You're gonna see 15, 20, maybe 46%. I mean, some things definitely have that GMC or GameStop and AMC kind of all over it. Where we're seeing those things pop up, and they shouldn't. And a lot of our companies are popping, and they necessarily shouldn't either. So,
I want to take a second and address this comment from Hollis here. It's really good. It's been a 4-year bull market. It's a lot easier to be smart in those conditions than to navigate the volatility now and rotate.
right.
And one thing I'll say for that, Hollis, is we're retail investors. They can't make us sell.
True.
So, one of the ways that you can get 100 baggers is just never sell whatever you have. If you've got to have this money right now, you can make moves. You can try to navigate the volatility. If you like the companies you have and they're continuing to execute, Dougie is not your financial provider. This is not financial advice, but I'm just telling you, it's okay to not sell.
Yeah.
If the things you're seeing in your companies and the CEOs that you've hired to run your shares, like if the whole market is dumping, that's not the fault of the CEO of the company that you hired. Right? Because that's what you do when you buy a share. You hire that CEO.
Yes, yes, that's how I try to think about it,
So
or I try to think that I'm in the room and understanding of why they're making their moves. Like I like this individual because they have been part of this process, and this process, and I've seen the wealth, or I know where they've been, where they come from, and how they created an infrastructure there, or they managed something. So I like to invest in the people that are controlling the company that I'm investing, at least to a small degree. So I do agree with that. Like you said, you don't have to sell your shares at all. And if I've never sold a share, I would have drastically more than I do now. And I'm doing great right now. I'm still doing good even with all of this red that's around.
yeah,
Um,
like I don't like being red, folks. Like don't get me wrong. Like it's annoying, and you've heard me ranting, and like I understand there's some structural problems that we have encountered that are really going to be some headwinds that this market has to figure out. But I've upscaled my portfolio. I've bought some of the best companies. I'm getting them at crazy discounts to what they were just a few months ago. So now I get to ride back up before anyone starts warning that we're at all-time highs on those companies now. I
right.
get a 50, I get 100% upside. I get double my money before I have to hear any analyst warn me that we're at all-time highs.
Yes, yes, I truly feel that. I like. Shout out to my man Midwest over there. I hope you got some britches on tonight, my dude. um, you know, the alpha is important. Shout out to Austin. Austin finds alpha out there. Like that's what it's really all about. I really do think that like if you find the alpha and you find something that's compelling enough for you to shell your bucks into and to hold it and you follow it, you should also be able to find the bear case, right? And know when it's time to pause on the buying and let it do its little thing and retrace and come back to a valuation to where you want to put some more into it, or to when the CEO or CFO figures something out and they get things rolling again, and then you can put your money back into it. I think that those are the type of things that make retail investors uh, important, because narratives create volatility, and who controls the narrative? Largely, it's not the companies anymore. Retail has become so involved that we are kind of a part of the company, right? Like we hear
We're
more
certainly on the
from.
team, right? Or we're fans of the team,
Right,
right? We're
right,
out there. I'm wearing my Palantir merch. I've got, I'm not lying, bro. I got my Palantir swag game down. Like I've got
right.
notifications when Eliano posts a new drop. Like I am on that. Is it expensive stuff? Yes. It's also very high quality though. We'll say that.
No doubt.
Their swag is
I will
super high quality.
I will say this too. I have put some old Palantir stuff that I've acquired throughout, the last decade on eBay, and I have been able to almost buy uh, a share of Palantir for everything that I sell on eBay. And I
Oh,
mean, I
dude, I
didn't pay
hadn't thought
anything
of
for
that.
this stuff, bro. I'm like, you know what? I would gladly trade this T-shirt that doesn't really fit the way that I want, for a share of Palantir. Give me $140 for this T-shirt, please. Oh, you want this pen? You want this chess set that I got? Give me $500 for it. I'm gonna go take that money and straight just throw it right back into Palantir. Um, so, you know, us retail investors hear more from the CEOs than uh, most, probably many of the workers do. Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of a funny thing where we interact a lot without having to interact with the CEO, but like we have a constant feed of what's going on with them. I mean, it's better than a Twitter feed. It's live and direct. We got Amit over there talking with all of these guys. You got Matt Money and Vince over there talking with Sir Peter Beck. I mean, that's pretty impressive to me, especially seeing that like nobody's really. Well, Matt's been in the game for a minute, right? Like Matt's been in the game for a long while, and I really respect his platform and how he handles and separates himself from a lot of the crowds that are out there, but you still get that constant, which is impressive. And so for the retail investors, narratives, creating volatility, they change overnight, and we got Twitter fingers and all of that stuff. So we're right there in the fronts of, getting the data as soon as it happens. I mean, Cactus Jack. Look at Cactus Jack. My man is out there better than the damn terminals,
Hustling, yeah.
And he's friendly. He's like a friendly dude. Like he doesn't really charge anything. He just pops out once a week, and he's like, hey, if you want to donate, donate. I mean, he's got 15,000 people on there following him. Why not? No, I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that really get to dabble with the Bloomberg terminal, right? I get to mess around with it during the spring and fall semesters through my university, because I try to work with some of the finance team and just understand, and I'll go to some of the meetings and listen to how they do things, where I get to learn how like a little hedge fund like actually works versus how retail works, and how people really do have to worry about tickers all damn day long. And it's impressive to see the amount of data that we as retail community investors are able to share with each other at the drop of a dime, and I think that that's impressive, because it shows discipline. It shows identity, right? These companies are creating identity, and we're not necessarily branded. I mean, some of us are branded, but we have identity with some of these companies. And if you have an identity with some of these companies, you can kind of tell what type of DD you're into a lot of the time. Because some of these niche companies don't really have an aspect where everybody knows what the hell they do at the moment. Like Palantir, if you're into Palantir and you understand Palantir, you're kind of like an Alex Karp. You're kind of a philosopher of such, because you understand ontology, epistemology. You know why you know what you know, or you just watch a Mitt and you get on what he's on, and you're kind of good to go. My man does really, really well in the things that he jumps into. So it's cool to see how things go. But in times like this, you might want to hold on to your pocketbook a little bit, and be like, damn, let me not just invest into what everybody else is investing in. Let me understand why there's a drawdown in certain things, where in the past, government hasn't even really been looked at. It's kind of been like sidebar noise. This is shit that you don't really pay attention to, because everything's been running up no matter what the government has really been saying. And now you're seeing that, increasingly governments are, major customers in a lot of these areas, which are boosting up a lot of these companies. And 4 years ago, you would have people being like, oh, screw that company, they're the government's investing in them. But now you're like, oh wow, it's a powerhouse now, and the government coming over here and investing in these things like quantum energy. I mean, critical minerals. I have a lot of individuals that I'm very keen of that are, pro green movements and stuff, and so mining is a big issue for them. And I get to listen and hear all of the different sides, but I understand also like how critical a lot of these things are. So really interesting to see the evolution of the retail investor in 2026, especially right now where things are kind of maybe not the prettiest for a lot of people, because a lot of people have been also investing into the markets as of recent. They haven't really been in. It's been popular. They've jumped in. They've maybe gone to like some of these meetups or something like that, and then they've really gotten, the fever and felt fervent and investing in smart companies. But now the smart companies are also seeing a drawdown, so they're seeing like the pressure of like, damn, I thought everything was supposed to be good and go up and go up. So understanding the entire story, like the 360 versus just what's in front of me, this 20 degrees or this 30 degrees, whatever my sight line has for me. Like take the blinders off and spin around a little bit and look what's behind you and look what's in front of you, because the narratives explain themselves and it's largely mandated. So like you're talking about, man, the premiums are good, bro. Just buy good companies and hold on to them for a little bit. You get your capital. You don't have to really worry about having a lot of bucks to shell in the market if you've got good companies.
I lowered my cost basis today on my Rocket Lab.
Yeah,
stuff,
man.
bro. Like I had like 100% wins on my, so I normally believe in closing out covered calls or cash secured puts when you reach 60% win. Like, especially if you do it early in the contract. Like, why wait a long time for a chance at another 40% when you might not even get the 60 you're already at? So get that, and you can roll again. You can roll out and down, or you can roll out and up, or you can roll in and down and try to get more. If the stock went down, you can roll in and down, right? And get more delta at a lower strike price. You can get more money. So I was just rolling this week, just collecting premium all over the place. All over the place.
Yeah,
I probably collected like 30 grand in, and okay, like I'm not TJ the Wheel Deal. Okay. So when I say I collected 30 grand, that's a lot of money for me. Okay. That's like,
hell yeah.
My premium, when I sell cover calls, my premium, that's my spending money because I'm retired now. Okay. So
right.
If I haven't gone over everything
by the
with
way,
y'all,
yeah.
If I haven't gone over everything with y'all, like my dividends pay all my household income stuff, and then my cover calls pay for all the fun stuff I want to do. So when I bought a whole bunch of LSU football tickets for my boy Austin to come to, we're gonna have fun though. November. There was let me rewind. Yes, Austin said, should we have a little Houston mini meetup? Yes, we should. Austin's coming to town. I think it's November 14th. Is that right?
Okay.
Austin's coming to town November 14th, and that's I think the Friday, and then Saturday we're going to the LSU football game. And Arthur's coming, and I got some other like friends whose kids are athletes at LSU are also gonna sit with us. So I got a whole bunch of tickets, and but like, so I had to sell cover calls for the money to buy those tickets, and that's just the life I'm living now. It's very different. It's like I'm not collecting a paycheck. I got to find a way to get my assets to make me money.
But
Jared, I do have the laundromat, and it is a loss leader right now. Yes, casually doxing ourselves. Austin. So little known fact. So Austin's coming to the football game, but Austin, little known fact. Tiger Stadium on a Friday night in on a Saturday night, Tiger Stadium itself becomes like the fourth largest city in Louisiana. Just crazy. The population of the stadium. We're doxing ourselves, bro, but like there's a whole city there inside the stadium.
I will say, my brother's from Little Rock, Arkansas. So shout out to all the Razorback fans out there, Suey. But one of the best NCAA games that I've ever been to, and I've been to some fire games, right? I've been to the UCLA, USC out there in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl many a times, but LSU plays the Razorbacks for the Golden Boot Trophy, and they either play in LSU or at the stadium in Little Rock, Arkansas at the War Memorial. And that game right there is so intense. I mean, when you think about college stadiums and the sound, you always hear like, oh, it's so from the Alex. And I've been, blessed to be able to see that in person. So, you know, I'm a big fan of what LSU does, especially
That
through their
that is a 24 karat gold trophy.
oh yeah, the golden boot, baby. I mean, it's big deal. Like if I wanted to go to a NCAA game, I'm going to the golden boot game. Plus the fans are great, man. Like the regalia is awesome. I mean, we're talking about we got Dougie on. Dougie's the regalia master over here. I don't care what anybody says. Your outfit. Sorry about that.
Lambo win.
Ferraris and Lambos racing down the street. Sorry about that, guys. But Dougie's regalia is amazing, and that's the type of energy that I appreciate from our little group and our consortium of collective ideas and what have us.
Yeah. So Matt Money driving by. So I do have a couple tickets left if somebody wants to join. I do have I think 2 more ticks left that aren't spoken for. I bought a whole row. So and it's the LSU Texas UT Austin game. So we're bringing Austin against UT Austin.
Austin against Austin. Austin versus Austin. That's great right there.
Ray and Michelle came with us to the Florida game last year. That was their first college football game.
That's awesome. Oh man, I was loving seeing their pictures of them out there in the Alps. That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, they're living their best life right now, bro.
Yeah, I'm loving that for them. There's you know what? Those two are such good people. I had so much fun with them out here in Miami, just kicking it, being able to sit back and then lounge on the couch and just laugh and just kind of introduce and interact with everybody. June was out there, Maddie was out there. I mean, there was a lot of us that were out there, so it was a really good time when everybody was out here in Miami. Looking forward to the next meetup out there as well. But Houston isn't nothing but a hop and a skip away too, and I have quite a few people out there in Houston, so I'll be looking forward to.
We got like the gang going out here. Oh, and Tess is coming back,
right?
This fall.
Right.
So good. Yeah, like we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a great time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, man, it's good to see. It's good to see what we all bring to the table, because you never really want to be around everybody who's on the same page, right? If you're on the same page, you're stuck in the same chapter. So I'm glad to see that we have a lot of people that are into completely different things. Their areas of expertise are in different things. Their experiences are very unique in their own aspects, and then how our origin story kind of came just from randomly in a chat of a guy who was, sitting next to a bunch of bricks, talking about companies that people had no idea about and were saying we're going to zero, and then you find that there's a lot of prosperity and profitability that can have from a lot of this just common interaction, right? Smart statements. I really enjoyed everybody who went out to Qubits. The conversation there was captivating. I mean, nobody was really talking small talk much.
No.
It was all very much worthwhile to listen to what everybody had to say, even if it was small talk. It wasn't just small talk that was something that you brush off to the side. It was something that kind of like stayed with me. I mean, I remember some of even the small conversations. I'm just like, oh wow, this is great. What was I eating at that time? A little chocolate cake or a little tiny hors d'oeuvre that they were selling, or or some of those prime ribs that they had. So a lot can happen from just a little bit. Like you said, yo, you know what, Dougie? We need to capitalize on what you said earlier. You don't have to sell. You don't have to sell.
They can't make me sell.
They can't make me sell. You know, I'm not
that
leaving.
Can make me sell is, you know, my mortgage company. But
right, a little squeeze, a little pressure every now and then. You know, is good for you too. It checks your blood pressure, right? It makes sure that like you are actually like sitting down there and doing the exercises and whatnot. But I do, man. I hear a lot of people talk about taking some off of the top, which is good. Okay, take some off of the top. But if you're somebody like me who doesn't necessarily have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 shares of a company that's run up, and you know, you've had like a humble 3,000 or 4,000 shares, but it's run up a few 100% for you. You don't really have to sell that either. I can create capital like you were talking about earlier from just making smart decisions with covered calls and using that premium to give me capital to add to it or to venture off into something else and become more diversified. I don't have to sell to be diversified. I have to buy good things and not sell to create an avenue for me to understand more, because I think that that's the big thing that we're missing as retail investors is understanding that there are other avenues and you don't have to be a part of everything, right? I think that that's one thing that I see a lot of people getting stressed out and overwhelmed with is
that's me, bro. Like I find something I'm interested in and I throw money at it, and I'm, you know, 2 years later, I'm like, man, why was I just not consolidated? Right? Consolidated makes you rich. Diversification keeps you rich. But yeah.
Right. Well, but
Black, yes.
I too, I have a gang of I have a gang of stuff, but I have some that I barely have anything in the stock at all. You know, I mean, I have like 30 shares of just one company that I was interested in, or 100 shares.
I know, right? I mean, I've got that dust in my account everywhere. Like, and I feel bad now because it's like, man, why am I not disciplined like our boy Austin and just have like 6 stocks?
Right. But it's not.
Why am I not like that? I don't know. I'm just like I get in too many rabbit holes. I'm like, oh, this is a good company. Oh, this is a good company. Oh, this is an interesting tech, or you know, and it's like.
True.
You didn't put enough money into it to make enough money anyway. Yeah. And all you did is just you diversified yourself out of making big gains.
Oh man, you know, like there's a company that just popped just this last 2 days. I mean, it's been up like 400% over the last DFNS. Like I found like some interesting stuff in them probably like 6, 7, 8 months ago, and you know, it was pennies. So I grabbed me a 1,000 of them, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna let this sit here. Like it's interesting. It was enough to hold, and you know, maybe I can play around with some covered calls or like some options, not necessarily covered calls, where I can play with some different options that I haven't really played with in the past, and I can learn something that's not going to cost me a whole lot and that, you know, may get some bump. And then the last 2 days, it just ran like 400%. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take this as some serendipity, and I got lucky, and I'm just gonna take that and roll it into something that, like you're talking about, I should be.
Bro, you made 109% today.
Oh, bro, man. I mean, and then yesterday it went up like
yesterday. It's up 1,000% in a week. Bro.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I was like, you know what? I kept 100 yesterday, and then today it ran back up, and I was like, you know what? Give it to me. That's a gimme. That's a freebie right there.
Why are you not sharing this with your bros, bro? Like why am I hearing about this after it's up 1,000%?
I did mention it. I did mention this. I know that I mentioned it in the Entangle group. I definitely had it in the Entangle.
Oh man,
group.
we have like too many messages in that group. Like
we do.
I love everybody there. It's just it's gotten too busy. I can't follow it all the time.
It's busy, and that's another thing too. Is I don't want to be a spokesman for certain companies. You know, like I'm only interested in, and I'm learning in a certain angle. So for me, I'm kind of
okay. So
I forget who the guy was, but I'm paying my tuition like catching a certain angle and like learning, this is what I like about this company, even if it's not going to be profitable or something that I'm going to stay in. I've learned this aspect.
So everybody, if I zoom out year to date, this is what my Ocean Power Technologies investment feels like lately. But yeah. But man, you have caught lightning in a bottle here. Great job. It's amazing. So I did want to run down just a couple of things that happened today.
And Austin and his 7 stocks.
Yeah, Austin is 7 stocks. And he showed me, he posted them somewhere today. Austin, are you around? Do you mind if I post that? I think you got it was in one of our groups. You posted your donut.
Oh yeah, that was.
If you don't mind, I'll post it just as like this is an ideal way to have yourselves invested, folks. Like, and again, and know what you own. Oh, it might have been a stock draft. Okay. Yep. There it is. So yeah, I'm gonna let Austin. I'll let him say. Yeah, he posts stuff on X, but I just want to make sure that he's okay with it before I post it. Because normally he drives and he would post his shit, which is fine. Okay, he's on his X. All right. All right. Yeah, I just didn't want to do it without my boy's permission.
Hey, I like that. Get the cosign.
Because I mean, your guy is enjoying his drinks tonight and didn't want to like get anybody in trouble. Look at that. That's lovely.
Kiki's on the river. If you guys want to come down to Miami and do some Miami shit, we should all go get rowdy over there. It's
oh, dude,
it's one of those.
The last time, dude, I just had fun when me and Tess went out. That was a great night. We had a
blast. Yeah, we had a blast.
But folks, if you can manage your purchases this well, like I was telling Austin today, like I'm always really impressed by the way his mind works. Like I don't always agree with him on everything when we get down to buy or sell, right? But I always really enjoy seeing how his mind works. And that's why I feel like really honored to count him as a friend and have him as my partner in this podcast that gets tens of viewers. So but we do. Hey, speaking of our viewers, though, we're appreciative of everybody who is watching.
Yeah, no doubt, man. The community is great.
Whether MA is MasterCard
for sure. MasterCard is really impressive, man, because no matter what, they get paid because they have connections to everything. It's one of my picks in the regular finance chats plays specifically for that reason. I really like how they have a reach that's just tied to just almost every aspect of the market.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's the American consumer, right?
Right. And to double down on what you're talking about with Austin, yes, I do appreciate his it's methodical, right? Like it's well thought out, it's well educated, it's also very professional, but removed from the professionality, right? Like he has his professional aspects of it, but he keeps those outside of his own rhetoric that he shares and preaches, and it's solid. Not a lot of people are solid who have like a not necessarily strict, but like his way of doing things. And because it's hard to have your own way of doing things in these markets. Sometimes you got to borrow from somebody else's methods, or your thesis doesn't necessarily play out, so you have to be able to borrow somebody else's DD. And I really feel like Austin kind of goes in and does his own architecture, and it's cool to see. Met him in person, great dude. need more Austin. You know, like we need more meetups where we can meet up without the the thousands and hundreds of people that are trying to do the meetups, where we can just sit down and have a kickback and
Yeah.
talk some facts and some numbers and make it beneficial for everybody, you know.
That is one thing I do appreciate about Amit. He's very generous
No doubt.
with his money for the folks that support him and work for his channel. He you know he takes us out to a nice dinner, just just a small group, kind of inner circle. That is not something you can pay to be in. That is just people who have worked with him and work with him on his channel. So it's very authentic. There's not anybody who's just like written a check from A16Z or something like that to just get in on the group. So a lot of respect for him for doing that, and plus it's just kind of the guy he is. But it also has made it so that we've been able to develop friendships amongst the group as well, that we're able to like leave with, and then have a channel, have a just a WhatsApp channel that Amit's not even in, that we're chatting in all day. Like that's amazing. So
no, the hospitality goes much further than the benefits from the market that we get from it.
And I'm sure he's got whales and stuff he's got to entertain and take care of now as he's moving up in the world. But
and you know what, I'll say
Steve is the same way. Like he just hit me up. Let's just go to breakfast, man. It was like, dude, he's got probably literally billionaires that would want to sit down with him and go to breakfast with him, and he's like having time with me. So that's just really cool.
Right. I will say this too, for everybody that gives Amit shit in the chat. I think he brings it on himself a lot about the grinder and whatnot. All of the women that I had at invited or that accompanied out to Miami, they all loved Amit, and like Amit was just out there. Had them, we got like no conversation time with them. Like Amit had them all.
We were like playing defense for Amit.
I know, I was loving it. I was like, you know what, sir? I was like, we don't even need to chop it up right now. I was like, I see you're busy over here. I was like, and these are my people over here. Have at it. So
well, he took us all out to the club, to the rooftop bar the night before.
Right.
And then, so like he made sure that we all had time to do our thing together and get the group together. And then, the big event where everybody's at, that's a work day. Like we're mods for that event, just like we are in the chat every day.
Yeah, no doubt. Right? No, it was good to see everybody doing work too. Being able to be the bystander there. I was like, this is impressive. And it's cool also because it's hospitality at its most genuine aspect for me, because I've met you guys prior. We got to get loose, and then to see everybody after that night, because I tell you what, it took me until about 4 p.m. to get my head straight the next day.
Well, that's because we were up until 4 a.m.
Yeah, no doubt. We basically had the whole lobby of the hotel the whole night, but it was good, and I really appreciate that aspect too. So there's great things that can happen through the markets besides just getting your payroll involved. You can have like a great community that pays back itself too. Allows for confidence to grow in different avenues that you might want to. And I've reached out to a lot of people in the chat too, just to try and understand things that I had never really dabbled with. I was a traditional, just buy and hold, not really trying to gamble too much. I might swing trade every now and then, but I've gotten so many gems from the community. Hearing people from like June and Melanie, Matt, when he was more vocal with everybody, just hearing a lot of wisdom and people sharing their aspects without having to be like, buy my program, which is a major thing for Amit. I think that he hasn't gone that route. You know, he didn't even have any damn commercials on his stream.
Yeah.
So big coup.
So anyway, so we've glazed Amit enough now. Austin's like, all right, I'm not on the show. I can leave.
Hey, but you know what? I mean, but that's why he gets to have the seven stocks and, you know, kiss his girl and pet the dog at the same time. I hope y'all aren't all in the vehicle. You know what I mean? You had to.
Well, that's a tiny vehicle though.
Yeah, right. That's a little squeeze. That's got to be puppy's got to be on somebody's lap.
But actually, Austin, next time we do have an episode together, we do need to see Burrow, because I'm sure that little black fucker is like 4 times as big as he was the last time I saw him. Because lab puppies do not stay small.
Yeah, that thing is gonna be big. Yeah, bro, you're gonna have to get the extended, the XL cab version of that Supra.
Yeah. All right, so I did want to hit on just for people who might be here for serious shit. Did want to hit on a few things. I did have some bullet points. We can run over those and comment. But first was, we had a Fed meeting today, right? And the Fed decided, we're holding rates steady. Now, 3 of the Fed presidents did want to raise, and I just want to throw my glass across the room and break it against the wall when I hear that. I'm like, why? And they say, because the price of oil is up. The price of oil is up because of a military operation, you fools. Like, when we thought the military operation was over, the price of oil tanked.
Right.
Like, you don't raise rates on something because it's something is that volatile and can flip on a dime that much. Like, because it's going to take you 6 months to realize, the price of oil has gone down, so we need to lower rates again. You can't raise and lower the Federal Reserve rates based on the price of oil. That moves far faster than the Fed does, and so it's really inappropriate for them to do that. Yes, they have a mandate to fight inflation. They do not have a mandate to fight repricing of goods and services based on scarcity. Inflation is due. So both of these things can result in higher prices, but one of them is due to the government printing money, and the other is due to scarcity in the market.
Right.
Now, yes, both of them may lead to higher prices in the market, but raising the rate is not going to lead to lower oil prices, you fools. Like, it's going to lead to people getting laid off, and like,
right. But at the same time, I think that why not capitalize in the middle of chaos if you're a company, right? And the idea for most companies is to create a monopoly to where, like, you get to control everything, and where any narrative that you spin is something that you can justify, and that's where the inflation might really come from, to where it's like, prices are going to be inflated because supply chains are strategic assets, right? We saw this in COVID. That should have taught us everything about supply chains. But like you're saying, like, yeah, the gas price isn't going to change. Yeah, we're not going to sell off and give our reserves up that much. We don't have that much. A lot of the quote unquote oil that's going from the Straits of Hormuz is not going to the U.S. And I mean, and you can verify these things. Like, you can track all of the oil tankers that are going through the Hormuz, and you can see where their final destination is. It's Asia. It's Asia, and it's China, right? Like, there's like maybe like 2 or 3 oil tankers that have gone to the U.S. And
honestly, at this point, we're like less than 12 months from the pipeline, which basically bypasses the entire Strait of Hormuz, coming online. So what we're seeing is the Houthis in Yemen starting to attack the Red Sea Strait.
Yeah.
Because that was the plan as well. If Iran's closing Strait of Hormuz, we'll just pipe the oil to the other side and we'll run it out of through the Red Sea. But now Iran's using their proxies through the Houthis to try to get that strait closed. So it's interesting to see these Middle East countries. And honestly, this is kind of what should be happening just from a geopolitical sense. If you just think of the game theory of everything and nations working against and competing against one another.
Right.
I think the Saudis, Qataris, Kuwaitis, they have to get the oil out. They have to get it on the boats.
Right. And I think a lot of the time
has to stop it.
A lot of the time people will say like, oh, fuck the opposition. It's like, hey, look, we talked about mandates earlier. Like, things don't just happen randomly. It's not these people just responding emotionally. Like, there are a mandate. Like, they still have policy in place. They still have some sort of Congress themselves to where if something happens, they have to react, right? Like, they have to do something. But, you know, Cactus broke something earlier where it was like China is now sending, shoulder-mounted rocket launchers to the Houthis, and why not? That's protecting their investment, right? Like China's policy is to divest from the U.S. oil in particular, and it revolves around the speed revolves around how much the oil prices per barrel, right? If it's under 100, they can still purchase some, but they get rid of a whole lot more than they do purchase. It's part of the whole packaged plan. And, we talk about not letting Iran have a nuclear product, but tell me what's more devastating here is the Straits of Hormuz has been globally more devastating than if they would have dropped a nuke somewhere. Like, it's caused more of a choke point to where now if another strait gets paused or jammed up, man, you got some major issues. And I would be looking at Asia, and I would be looking around around New Zealand and
the
such.
thing you have to consider, bro. We have, because we're trying to find someone to negotiate with, the United States has decided to stop making new Ayatollahs. That is always on the table.
Right.
For them to start doing it.
Right. I don't know though. I think that the regime change, I think that Trump kind of got left on the doorstep while they were ringing the bell and trying to run away. Like everybody who was there was supposed to stand at the door with him, kind of like just bounced on him. And I think that that's like just inside, like we talked about earlier. We just like the smear campaigns. Like, we don't really give a shit about the other person. We just don't want to see them to win, right? Which in turn affects everybody else. So just interesting seeing how.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would be 0% surprised if we find out, a decade from now that Team Blue was supporting the other side. Just because you can't let your domestic opponent get a win.
Right.
Like we've entered that phase of the decline, but
time horizons and arbitrage, it's a big one. Like, and we all compete for information, but nobody competes for patience, right?
That's true.
It's like quarterly trading, monthly funds, high frequency firms. Everybody plays a different game.
Yep.
So you want to evaluate a company over 3, 5, 10 years.
The other thing that the Fed has to worry about, though, that if they just want to raise rates, well, right now unemployment is kind of at a good number. Do they really want to futz with that? Do they really want to make the price of borrowing to buy a home go up and have more people out of work, which is what they'll do if they raise rates? because the
Right.
layoffs will come. The
Right.
layoffs will come instantly. Right.
They
So
will.
the next big
Let
thing
me ask
in the
you.
market. Okay, go ahead. I was just going to move to the next topic. So I got topics for us to hit, man.
Let me ask, do you think that the conflict could, right, but do you think that the conflict could hit like industrial capacity and, things of that sort to where the jobless claims have a ability to be filled by us being forced to produce within the United States, and change some of those pipelines. Like we talked about earlier, data centers are not going to necessarily get built out at the speed that they're going to get built out, but a lot of those infrastructures are still there. And we've seen it with companies like Andrew and Tesla, where they're willing to build out these mega buildings for production. Because if things do get a little dicey, one thing that the military industrial complex does amazingly is it fixes inflation and it fixes jobs within the country, right? Like that's always been the powerhouse behind the military industrial complex. Now it's hard to shut off at the end when everybody starts becoming too powerful and the government can't really control anybody. But we're fighting for cheap labor, but the cheap labor is really having the U.S. individual a solid job to where they can work and have something to show for, which boosts the economy from within, and then kind of changes the narrative of how we navigate going forward if things were to be ugly, right? Because oil has a thing where if it lasts a long time, everything has the ability to say the prices need to be inflated because we need to pass the costs on to the customers.
I don't know.
It's just interesting to have like some forward thinking because this affects like a lot of the stuff that's going on in the markets today, especially like all of the stuff that's happened within this last 2 weeks. I mean, the narrative has completely changed this last 2 weeks.
I don't think so. I think this is going to be a deep seek moment.
Okay.
When we look back 6 months from now, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, everyone was stupid.
Right. So how about?
But okay, what will have changed is there will be a different party in control of Congress.
Okay, yeah, I think so. I think so on that. I do agree with that.
And make no mistake, like we're already headed for 2 years of nonstop impeachments. I don't think. I mean, they're obviously not going to get 2/3 of the Senate, so the president will not be removed from office, but he will constantly be impeached. Remember, the House, by a simple majority, it just takes a simple majority in the House effectively to indict the president, and then he's tried by the Senate, which takes 2/3 majority. So they will just keep sending impeachment, aka indictments, to the Senate for the next 2 years.
Right.
And that probably is the end of anything that would get done. So
okay, what else? What else?
They just can't let him cook. They just can't let. Well, hey, look. To be fair, a good quality Team Blue would have forced Team Red to take their jobs seriously, but because they have gone so far Looney Tunes and so DSA captured now, that Team Red has gone off on this crazy side quest in Iran and all these other places instead of sticking to the main point, which was to get the AI data center build out done.
Right.
That was the thing that we needed to keep us in front of China, because they've already beat us in the energy generation, which is basically what is the cost per. We're talking about token maxing. We're about the cost per tokens, right? Well, the cost per token is basically comes down to the price of energy that goes into it, right? And China is like 6 to 1 on us on their energy generation.
Yeah. I think that the real bottleneck that we're talking about here is power too, right? 500 megawatts, 1 gigawatt. Can you cool it? Can your utilities deliver? It's so far out. It's like the benefits that we're talking about are like 2032 and stuff. Like we need some fixing now. The prices have risen for the construction for all of the data centers. I mean, we talk about inflation, but that's what's happening with the build outs. People are just getting the money. They're like, hey man, the money is here, bro. Let's capitalize on just fattening some pockets, like you talked about earlier. But power and electricity is the hard one. I think just for me, like that's one of the hard ones, and that changes the current winners. Like it's not just Nvidia winning anymore. Like now there's companies involved with like the power. I mean, we've seen it. Power companies, transmission, switchgear, cooling, grid software, backup, all of that stuff. I mean, networking is about to be the powerhouse. Are you kidding me? Like telecommunications and all that stuff is about to be so crazy that we're going to be like, where the hell did all of this come from? And how are we powering stuff from space? Like that's the new move right now. That's the new thesis right now, is like powering shit from space.
Who cares? Look at that chart.
Yeah, damn.
This cannot be reversed, folks. This is not reversible. This trend is not reversible.
That's massive.
Like the US is ultimately cooked. Like we're the ones that have to figure out how to run AI on no power. China's not the one that has to figure out how to do that.
Right. But it's going to be difficult for us because everybody wants to be the power. And then each one of those, like the data centers aren't homogeneous anymore, right? Like it's all about specialization now for these different areas. At least that's what it seems like. AI interference, AI training. You got military AI. You got healthcare and financial and edge AI. All of the different specializations of these different sectors here are starting to like require their own build out. So it's not like you can just have one big giant data center and fix everything. Nah, everybody's got to have their own little niche, little setup. So I don't know, man. I like to see some real conversations, and everybody is just kissing ass and covering potholes, is what it seems like. Nobody really wants to sit down and like have an actual conversation because they're too busy about just picking on whatever they can pick on to cause problems for the moment. Like America really needs some solid plays where at least we can all be on like an even playing field, at least.
Honestly, this dovetails into the whole open source discussion.
Right. Dude,
and
this.
And while we mentioned that, Meta, you can't talk about US open source without talking about basically the failure that was Llama.
Right.
And I mean, Meta posted actually pretty good numbers today. Now they missed on EPS, but like they're still growing. Okay, I mean, if they just got rid of Reality Labs, which had an operating loss of 4.6 billion, like,
golly,
they're cooking just fine. And I don't care that their cash flow is going negative because they're actually getting the data center and the power built that other companies think that they're getting.
Yeah. How about how the open source is kind of taken away from like some of the sovereign prices, like the proprietary AI that like they're able to charge these high premiums with. I mean, I cool off the growth of the economy that has been produced by the tech run up from a major competitor, aka China. Like you said, the open source is something that's very interesting that I don't think that gets enough actual coverage on why it's important versus we just need to make it illegal. We just need to ban it.
Dario and Sam were the worst possible spokespeople for AI. And then half the country hates anything Elon says. So that's your big three.
Right. So crazy how Elon went from being like all of your hippies and your vegans and your global your global greeners hero to like just the most like people don't even want to speak his name.
It's funny. And look, the kids, like, especially like, I mean, you think, oh, you know, there's at least a segment like in rockets or stuff like that, or robotics. And they'd be like, okay, well, you know, Elon, whatever, right? No, they hate them. They hate him just as much.
Yeah.
Like they are ideologically captured.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Meta is down on these earnings numbers today, though. It is like after hours, it has just gotten crushed. It went at well at 2 p.m. today, it was at like 600, and then it bottomed after hours at 527 or 523.
That's massive. On a, you know, and shout
yeah,
out
when
to
Meta moves 10% after that is just ridiculous. The question is, now that the markets are open tomorrow morning, do you think the rest of the market comes in and flushes, or was this just after hours, low volatility or like low volume? Just it got kind of crazy, and the market will buy it up tomorrow.
Well, I'd like to say that there's definitely room to see a narrative that can be sold, but it seems like the narrative that we can't get away from is we're trying to punish Iran over here, and that has some of the aspects as to why some of these open AIs might be coming out and kind of like eating everybody's lunch per se, causing a little bit of stir to where everybody's trying to look for a narrative for hope, and it seems like everybody's in a headlock. Yeah, I agree kind of with what Hollis is kind of saying here, because it's so old school and it's so systematic to where I don't know if a democracy necessarily fits in how far we've progressed, and where we need to go means that we kind of need to have less Congress, because it seems like Congress is just choking each other out, and we need to cease that aspect. Like we need to like funnel into something. So this is where I like Palantir. I like Palantir for like being an automated government of sorts. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily Palantir, but I can see something like that in the future. You know, it might sound kind of, you know, frightening to some people, but Congress is frightening enough. When I'm watching what's going on with all these fuckers out there, I'm just like, yo, nobody is fucking allowing anybody to get a satisfactory job done. It's just all just like, man, let's just fuck everything
AI for
up.
president. You know, I'm not quite there yet. I think the executive should have a sovereign AI at their beck and call to be able to help them figure out what's, you know, see through the noise.
Right.
But all right, next hit. Robinhood. Something very near and dear to my heart.
Right.
My boy Vlad is just executing his like Trump account app is so clean, bro. It is legit the best looking software the US government has ever come up with. Far and away. It's so clean.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier where, my daughter now has her social security and her birth certificate. And so I've been putting in and looking at the different platforms that are out there. And I was really intrigued by, I was kind of put off by Robinhood when I did like a deep dive on them myself. I use Robinhood. I love the app. And I started to look at how they make money. And then I started understanding like the making money off of the flow. Right. But then I started looking at just the ease aspect and how it allows me to easily and understandably navigate through a Trump account possibility for my daughter, and how I can set it up and how I can have multiple things set up, to where I don't have to just have one portfolio. I can actually start one for somebody else. And that's been something that I've been looking at. And like, you're right, man. Like my man Vlad has just been knocking it out the park. It seems everywhere he goes, everybody likes him. He shows up and he impresses. And that's kind of what you want to see when a lot of the other platforms that are out there don't get a lot of love. And he has room to be criticized. Like there is room for Robinhood to get a lot of criticism, but you don't really see that. And you don't really see a lot of it from retail either. And we're the ones that are using his product, right? So if we're going to be the ones that aren't complaining, like perhaps he's doing something well that the rest of the sectors haven't really picked up on, because I don't know anybody that really doesn't have a complaint about Fidelity or any of the other. I always hear shit about all of those other ones.
Yeah,
kind of why I stuck with Robinhood.
As a Fidelity user, let me tell you, their user interface is just horrid. Like Vlad was taking us through like the Trump account stuff, and it is just so clean. I've got some screens here from Steve's stream earlier. Like this is just like really, really, really nice looking. Like it's just like, it is the best. It's very much in the language of the Robinhood app.
Right.
It's obviously a separate app because it's the Trump account, but like it just looks so choice.
Right. I say if Robinhood can get their crypto shit together, like they would be doing grand, right? Yeah, it seems to be their like huge weak spot. And I mean, they had like a record on their revenue, right?
Oh,
like almost 1.5 billion.
Yeah, their revenue up 32% year over year to 1.3.
1.3. Yeah, 1.31. And I don't think anybody was seeing it going to be that high.
Adjusted EBITDA 35% year over year up to 741.
Right.
So I mean, that is like, they are just continuing to execute.
Right.
Their gold card has reached 1 million holders. That's another thing. Like
I saw that.
We're as struggling as we all were to get it. Yep.
And their prediction,
and they have 13 business lines, all doing 100 million ARR now.
Right. Yeah, and their prediction markets are kind of killing it too. That's something that's been, bringing a bunch of new blood to them. I also
that's why, honestly, the prediction markets are why I'm not buying Robinhood right now.
Yeah, talk about that.
I think there's too good of a chance that because they went to the White House with this president, that when the next president comes out, they're out
of there. Yeah,
they're not only are they gonna be out, they're gonna get spanked so hard, especially in the prediction markets, that it's just too much political risk to carry right now.
I heard somebody talk about that, and I completely agree. We talked about this. Anything that's been pro during this presidency, the next presidency, if it is the other side, you can just assume that it's just going to be fucking ripped out of the walls and thrown into the streets. I mean, I would assume off of what's happened from this presidency, just alone, just seeing, because there are things that could have benefited the other side if both parties could have agreed to. So I am really curious, but Maddie's doing pretty damn good though. I see his ass is up at the White House too.
He was at the White House apparently.
Yeah. Hope you got that. Hope you got that parking permit. For the next 2 years, you should be straight.
Maddie, did y'all do a Cash Flow Chronicles tonight? Since y'all moved to Wednesday nights, I don't get to watch anymore because I've been doing this. So I feel bad that I don't get to watch them live anymore. Because they used to be Tuesday, Thursday, which is why Austin and I pick Wednesday. Just saying, that's how it happened. Oh, our boy went to the gym instead. Good on you, man. By the way, Maddie is starting to really show on camera too, bro.
No doubt.
So retail investors. So we were saying earlier that they can't make me sell, but apparently retail investors sold almost $250 million yesterday, which is the largest one-day outflow since COVID.
Hey, so, let me ask you, Doug, about Robinhood. Do you think that it kind of got overshadowed a little bit by the Fed and all of that?
No, I think that retail investors selling $250 million in stocks yesterday probably has more to do with it.
Okay, I can see that too. I liked it. One of their big things was the option selling was massive, and it's been one of the massive things for me. So to see other people capitalizing on that, it's much easier on their platform than any of the other platforms.
Yeah. I mean, the trick is going to be what Amit and I did last time, which was to buy Robinhood when everyone thinks it's fucking dead. And I don't think we're at the part yet where anyone thinks that retail investor is fucking dead.
Right.
But that's when you buy it.
Yeah. It's always been one of the good things to look at, right? Is how much debt does one company hold. There goes Matt. Matt taking off down my damn.
Matt, are you secretly Miami driving past Siege's house in your Porsche? So now, as bad as an after hours as Meta has had, is Microsoft finally getting their are they finally getting some love? Look at this. 7% overnight. So what I'm trying to figure out is, did capital just be like, no, sell Meta by Microsoft? Like, is that where is it just like a 1-to-1 trade?
I guess
I mean Meta's down 7, Microsoft's up 7. I know they're not exactly equal on market caps, but they're freaking close enough, right? Was it just a trade? Was it just a 2-leg trade? Like, sell one, buy the other?
Well, yeah. One's kind of saying, "Hey, the demand's here." The other one's saying, "We think the demand's coming." Would not even think. Let me say, they believe that the demand is coming. So one's trying to invest for that large run up, and one is saying, "Hey, the run up is actually here." So I guess you have to determine, like, is selling out of one worth it for grabbing near-term gains when one is saying that it is going to happen in the long term for them. So it's like, do you buy more of what you're already in, or do you hop ship for something to gain a bunch of bucks now and then maybe try and rotate back in? I have a small position in Meta. I really like Meta. I think that they have
Azure grew year over year 43%.
Right,
bro. If Dougie's laundromat could grow 43% year over year,
oh man,
crazy, bro.
No doubt, no doubt. How is the laundromat? You take your own clothes to your own laundromat.
So you'd think, and when I was talking with my wife about buying it, you'd think, oh, hun, you don't have to do laundry anymore, would be a selling point, right? Like,
Right.
Get the wife on board. Oh wait, I'm not doing laundry anymore in this house. So it's because I literally pay people to do laundry like all week long, not 24/7, but 7 days a week. I'm paying people to do laundry. She won't bring our laundry to the laundromat to do it. And she's there 4 days a week. Like, she could just drop it off and have them do it. And I'm just like, okay. So she does our laundry at home in our laundry room.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, well, look, when we got married, you said you didn't do laundry. And so you did for more than a decade. You did. I know you didn't like it. So I bought a laundromat. So now you don't have to do it anymore. And then you keep doing it. Okay. Just saying. My work here is done. I have solved the problem to the best of my abilities. And you decided to keep doing it. So at that point, I can't be held responsible.
Right. Man.
Hold on. Let me ask Microsoft a little bit. Let's get some of this out on Microsoft.
Let me ask you this: do you use Copilot? Like,
no.
Right? Do you know anybody that pays for like the Copilot?
Chevron.
Okay, so the big corporations, are the ones that are used that are paying
because they have to tell people that they're using it.
Right.
But I don't know anyone who is actually using it there. Okay, so it's used to like transcript all the meetings and stuff.
Right.
But no one's like using it at their desk. I mean, maybe you're using it to like, make this email make my angry email not sound as mean.
Right.
And so it would retype your email for you. Like, no one's using it, like, because you don't have enough tokens to do anything special with, and you're not allowed to put any real company data in it anyway. So like, and furthermore, you're not able to use it as a source of truth for doing any engineering work. So why does this thing exist? And I presume if you can't use it for engineering, you probably can't use it for accounting. Like,
right. It'd be too sensitive.
What are you gonna do? Like, we had an accounting problem when we got audited and we had a whole bunch of fines. Or what was the problem? Oh, the AI added the math wrong.
Right. So perhaps some of the cost, the revenue that's there is built into just the package that they sell these giant corporations, to where Copilot is mandated that it must be, paid for under whatever they have. Versus, is it really people using
all these third-party AI frontier models, and maybe the open source ones, are all better at making PowerPoint presentations than Copilot is.
Right. I mean, Copilot is pretty terrible. We have it at our university, and we have ability to utilize it for.
Well, and it's limited to like 200 characters on input too. So it's like, oh man, if you can't send an old school tweet when we were limited to 142 characters, if you can't make your prompt basically a tweet, then you can't even do it. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, we quickly have discarded it and not really used, because some of the professors are like, the only AI that you're allowed to use on this product is Copilot, and we're like, yeah, fuck that, we're not using that. That's terrible. Yeah. And we're not a giant company, but it is an entire university, and I'm in the.
Universities are huge institutions.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, is that just from the ground level that I have, a lot of the students are like, man, we'd rather pay out of our own pocket to use a different AI, because it's much more, like you said, much more efficient. So that leads me to kind of think where Meta's saying, trust us, and Microsoft saying, look, we already have the revenue.
Well, look, Meta AI is hot garbage too. Meta AI is hot garbage too, and I know that because I have the glasses.
Okay,
and I know that because
I don't know
WhatsApp
much about it.
Tries to get you to use it all the time too. Like it's really stupid. So you would think, okay, I had this chart pulled up on Robinhood, right? And so you would think you have a chart pulled up, and you would be able to take the glasses, which can take an image, right? And take it as input image. And you could
Right.
say,
Okay.
like, hey, Meta, what am I looking at right now? And the best thing it could tell you was, it appears that you're looking at a stock chart of some kind. It can't tell you that you're looking at the chart of Microsoft. It can't tell you that you're looking at the daily. It can't tell you that you're looking at, at it on Robinhood. It can't tell you all kinds of things that you and I know from just looking at something.
Right.
Let alone for the AI to tell you something useful about what you're seeing, which might be, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then, oh, it appears that the VWAP profile is this number.
Right.
Which I'm sure there's an AI that can do that. Hollis probably can make it do it in 15 minutes with his
Yeah.
superpower Claude.
Right.
So, Hollis, could we do that? Could we take a screenshot of this screen? Like import that image to Claude, and it be able to tell us all kind of stuff about it, other than it appears you're looking at a stock chart of some kind.
He's probably doing it right now. He'll be done in just a second.
Yeah, he's already done it. Yeah. All right. So he says, yep. Okay. So on the money these companies are making, apparently, and this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but OpenAI apparently had CFO Sarah Fryer and the chairman of the board had a internal meeting with employees on Wednesday, talking about how good the company's been performing. And I'm like, I kind of feel like the meme's like, you sure about that? You sure about that? Like,
right.
Yeah, because they're saying they're already better than they were higher at Q2. I'm like, last year Claude wasn't a thing.
Right.
Like you had no competition last year.
Yeah.
And
I do believe that.
Sam hadn't made an enemy of every single, like his last buddy is Jensen. That's the last place he can go for big capital. Like after this, he's got to start going to hedge funds or banks, because the big spenders, the hyperscalers, he's pissed off every single one of them
now. When I think about the big spenders too, I really do go back to the topic of your open source data, where, man, those open source stuff is going to take away. It's like Zeta. Zeta was able to produce these amounts of growth, and because they had taken that growth away from the other companies. These open source companies or programs and stuff that's out there, these LLMs are going to be able to take away, and that's why they need to move to ban them and such, because they're like, man, they're going to eat away from our ability to do this. So now the narrative changes a little bit about the execution risk, right? Which is where Microsoft is saying Microsoft is low execution risk, and Meta right now is high execution risk, right? Like you said, they've spent and gained massive amounts, to where you really have to hope that these companies stay afloat, because they're the ones that are kind of like running the markets up. But I see the freebies coming out here, and I know they're good. I mean, like you said, the DeepSeek smacked everybody's ass a little bit. I mean, I remember, because I have buddies in the military still. They were like, yo, they banning all of that shit. If anybody got DeepSeek, man, the whole computer is just locked up on you. Somebody comes in and seizes all of the data that's been going on in the computer.
That's just open source software. Like, I have no problem with that. I mean, like Apache Web Service,
right?
Versus, or OpenSQL versus MSSQL, right? I mean, the whole reason open source exists was basically to try to take down Microsoft. Linux was supposed to be the desktop of the future. to get you out of Microsoft. Well, they just kept making new flavors of Linux rather than making a better Linux that was better and easier for everybody to use. So, like, yeah, I used Linux back in the day, or I should say, I had a multi-boot system. I had Linux on there, so I could play with it, but I don't anymore. You know why? Because it's just freaking Windows, and I don't feel like dealing with every single and like last hardware driver that I have to deal with.
Right. Yeah, people are becoming less impressed with how much they're spending on the AI build out, right? I think that's the overall scenario and sentiment from the markets. At least, I mean, shit, at least from today, right? I mean, damn, nobody gives a shit about Meta spending all of this hundred and whatever they're doing, you know, and I really liked Meta because they put their money into the employees, like into their employee retention, which I thought was very smart, but I guess it was only smart in my idea, in my eyes, and saying that efficiently, durable revenue and cash flow is what the spending turns into immediately, not in the future. So we'll have to see, right? Because the data centers, if there's no data centers being built out, how are you going to get all that spending into the future and bringing in that revenue, right? A lot of little hiccups that are kind of domino effect right now for how the AI build out play is being heard across the markets. And I haven't even really seen much of the drop down in Meta after hours until you just said something about that. That's pretty intense.
Hollis said these the OpenAI and Anthropic employees wrote a letter to the White House asking them to slow down AI, and I just say F them. Y'all just got first across the finish line. You want the government to pull up the ladder behind you so no one else can get in. No,
yeah, no doubt. And I agree with that. You know, I think that they broke the mold, right? They've done the hard work. They've battled. They've had to go through a bunch of bullshit.
They were first.
Yep. And
it doesn't mean they get to be the best.
Yeah.
Imagine if the government had said, okay, you know, I was just hating on Microsoft from Linux, but imagine if in 1983, like the government listened to IBM and said, nope, no one else can make an operating system. We're using DOS and OS2, and that is it. We're not allowing any more companies to make operating systems. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Where would we be? We would be told like we'd be in a different world.
They're able to produce. Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to like the old, and we can't even really say old, right? Like we get to say this year, like it's been the best AI model. Everybody pays you, you get huge profits. I mean,
yeah, but look how dynamic the sector is, though.
GPT and Claude.
Look how dynamic the sector is, though. Like Google is sitting there ready to pounce. Like I've heard some conspiracy theories saying that basically they're just sitting on I think this is Steve's idea, that they're just sitting on a Gemini that is so good that it's ready to put Anthropic in the ground, but they don't want to do that because they have such a huge ownership stake in Anthropic. They don't want to kill their own investment. So they're just going to wait till Anthropic goes public and they can divest themselves of that at a massive profit, and then they'll crush them.
Right. What's Alibaba's AI called? Queen or something like that? But yeah, Queen and DeepSeek and Mistral and all you know, they're becoming very capable, right? Yeah. And if I don't have to pay those crazy prices, like that just means that they can become even more capable because my engineers or my workers are going to be able to learn how to utilize it without having to pay these giant premiums.
Hollis, I would be more interested in what the model said the risk to society would pose if it could ignore Reddit. Like, answer this question for me, but do not use Reddit as a primary or secondary or tertiary source. So if you have looked up information and it came from Reddit, don't count it. If you looked up information that was based on something that was a Reddit article, don't use it. Like, get me as far away from freaking Redditor comments as possible.
Man, Reddit is such an odd place. You know, Reddit is a little bit worse than Twitter or X, I think, in my opinion.
Totally ideological captured. Because all the mod, it's like one mod, or like they have like 20 mods that are moderating like the 300 most influential communities in the world. So like the same person that's moderating like computing is also moderating NFL.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
And they're all like hyper woke people too. So I mean, you can't even have an opinion that
no doubt
would violate their quote unquote code of conduct. Yeah. So speaking of our boy Anthony, thank you for bringing that up. That's my big news of the day. So for those of you who follow the channel, you do know that Chris Patel is a common foil on this channel between Austin and myself. But he and I had a really good interaction today on X. And, you know, I just had to say, you know, congratulations. Chris posted like the "here we go" meme of the Joker. Said they're signaling weaker CapEx growth. And I just had to hand it to him. Chris, you predicted this 5 years ago.
Huh. Patel?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, you know,
I like his angle.
You didn't make 10,000% returns while you were predicting this crash, but okay.
Right. You know, and also Azure hosts open source models, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can host, you can run the software on Azure, for sure.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like Microsoft has like a.
I mean, it's like the Linux distro. Like you can download it and
Linux
run it
is open
on
source too. Yeah, for sure.
On whatever hardware you have access to, if it's cloud or on-prem.
Man, I've always wanted I always wanted them to do a Linux phone, man, versus all these other platforms that they have.
The problem you have is, and this is a legitimate problem that everyone overlooks, is you have to go, because everyone's like, oh, well, it's not going to call home to China because it's open source. You can look at it. Yeah. Which one of you is going to audit all the code to make sure it's actually not going to call home to China? Like, like that's the risk there. And because it's a risk, it's like, all right, well, what's the cost to vet the safety of the model that you think you're getting?
Right. And the infrastructure.
And by the time you pay for all that, you may have just equivalated your higher token cost for using a US frontier model.
Right. Like the who has the best or the smartest model, but who owns the infrastructure around that AI, I think is, you know, what we're
but I totally agree with Carp though on you have to have your sovereign AI for your institution. Because we saw this happen. So this was the big run up. This is what made Amazon so successful in their retail business. They set up a storefront, not unlike eBay, but they set up a storefront that mom and pops could sell whatever brand, product, new thing that you could come up with. You could sell it on Amazon Marketplace. And because Amazon runs the software, they see what products are popular. All they do is take that product, make one tiny revision to it, send it to China, get it built for a hell of a lot cheaper than your mom and pop, than you were able to get it produced for, and then undercut you on the price for basically the same product. And if you think I'm wrong, look at all of the random products that are all made by, they're almost exactly the same, and they're all made by slightly different company names. but they're basically the same exact product.
Right, coming out of the same factory back door.
Yep, and so all they have done, and there's nothing to stop other companies around the world from doing this too. They're not making your product, that your invention, your brand. They're just tweaking it and copying it just a little bit, and so that is what these frontier model companies have started to do with software. Is like, well, we know how your software works, so you're running it on our system. So we'll just take your whole business idea and we'll make it cheaper. We're fully vertically integrated on the back end, and we'll resell it for cheaper than you're making it for.
So it seems like whoever controls the distribution and infrastructure, or maybe even possible like unique data, is the one that's going to be on top.
Yep.
Long term.
All right. So it is now 11:30, so it's a little later than we normally go, actually. But
Yeah,
I
no
really
doubt.
enjoyed the conversation tonight, Siege. Do you have anything else topically that you would like to touch on before we call it a night?
No, not really. You know, I think resilience is something that most of us have, but I think it's something that we should double down on too. You know, going back to the first topic that we talked about, you don't have to sell. Become resilient in your stocks that you pick and the DD that you do. You know, find holes in your own system and then become more resilient that way. But you know, most of us spend our time asking.
Okay, so my question for you is, what stock is going to go up 1,000% next week? Not financial advice.
Oh man, well shit, man. DFNS looks like it might keep on going, man. I don't even know what the hell the run up is all about. I don't know if it's a short squeeze or what, but you know, I'm bullish on that company OPTT, and it's been beaten into the ground. But you know,
I have a 50-cent average on it, which
right?
You're like, oh, that's incredibly low. No, it's not.
It's not. It's at like a 15
it's
cents
16
right
now.
Yeah, but I you know, that's my space. You know, when I first got into the Navy, I was a sonar technician, so I got to do a lot of like really cool and interesting things that most old sonar technicians didn't really want to hassle with. And
I think
this
of
fills
all
the gap
the
that
stuff
I know
that you're actually not allowed to talk about.
It's some interesting stuff.
I'm really
man.
jealous.
I mean,
and then the missile radar guys, like those are the guys that I'm like, okay, they're not like SEAL Team 6 operator blah blah blahs, but these guys know all the stuff that you're not allowed to talk about. Really not allowed to talk about.
There's a lot of interesting things, man, and it all comes around like bubbles, you know, like cavitation and stuff like that. You'd be surprised, like what a bubble will tell you.
Say less.
But you know, I like to nerd out. I like to have interesting companies that I look at, even if it's not a winner for me. I try to make my losses winners also. Like if I lose in life, I want to win in that aspect. So you know, I've made a lot this year. I had some covered calls that got called away that I wasn't expecting Rocket Lab to run up the way that it did. So I could take some losses on something essentially to kind of like balance out, but I don't think that it's going to go in that route. You know, that's the one that I'm kind of like watching.
I'm good. Like the port is down year to date, but the realized gains are super nice and green.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Realized. Yeah.
So
you know, I'm like at I think I'm at like 9. I was at 9% earlier today, on my year to date, but I'm probably looking more at like 7 or 6 now.
Well, at least you're green, bro. I'm in the red.
I'm massive.
I'm in the red on the port
green right now. I am like, I think my overall, I'm still up like, you know, close to 500 all time.
But because I've been able to utilize covered calls, I'm like 160 grand realized gains for the year.
Yes, yes, that part. That part. I have an expensive tax bill coming next year, so I try to utilize those aspects in the market.
Yep. All right. We could talk more about that later in a future episode. Thanks for coming on tonight, man. I really appreciate you jumping on. So I had a conversation partner because trust me, it is not easy to
Invite
do.
me, man.
Just sit and talk to a screen all day long. I don't know how Amit does it every day for like 8 hours.
I know, man.
But he's good at making you feel like he's talking to you too.
Hell yeah, he's great.
I don't have that skill. I actually need someone to carry a conversation with. But anyway, thanks to everybody in the chat. Make sure I tried to edit the thing to have Austin's X count in there. Make sure you go follow him if you haven't yet. But everybody have a great night, and we'll see you next Wednesday on the Money Mob. Bye, everybody.
I'll let you guys. Ciao, man.
Elon Musk, thank you so much for joining me on The Insider. Thank you for having us here at Tesla Giga. It is really hard to introduce you without using superlatives. I mean, you are doing, I think, more to build the future than literally anybody alive right now.
I'm doing a lot of building in general.
You're doing a lot of building.
Instinctive builder, I suppose. I just like building things.
You are, but you're building. I mean,
run around building things all day long.
You run around building a lot of things.
Yes.
You pioneered electric vehicles. You've revolutionized space travel. You've got a cutting edge AI model now. Humanoid robots. Can we start this conversation by you putting all of this together?
Yeah.
Tell me what the world's going to be like in, let's say, 10 years if you succeed.
10 years, so we're talking 2036.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll both be around.
Hopefully, yes.
We can.
Probably. Most likely we will be. It's hard to imagine the future where there's not an overwhelming amount of artificial intelligence. Meaning, like in 10 years, I would expect artificial intelligence to be far greater than the sum of human intelligence, like far greater. In fact, I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly 5 years is my guess. So there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
At a more prosaic level, what will life be like?
The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. This may sound preposterous, but well, here we are in 2026. Let's see where we stand in 2036. Now, of course, there are things that could derail this, like a massive global thermonuclear war or something like that. But assuming that there's not World War III, I think we're headed for an age of amazing abundance. So this is, I guess, a message of optimism and excitement about the future.
So we'll talk about the abundance in a second, but just a very prosaic matter. How are your companies going to be making money? Because when you in the SpaceX IPO prospectus, it looked as though the overwhelming amount of the revenue would be coming from AI, from Grok, really. It won't be transporting things to space, as SpaceX is now doing. What will your companies be doing in 10 years? And how will they make money?
Well, you can really think of the economy as digital and physical intelligence. So what we have right now advancing very rapidly is digital intelligence, obviously, with AI that is, it seems that, well, almost with every passing week, there are more AI breakthroughs. It can do something amazing that it couldn't do before. But it's still somewhat confined to the digital realm. It doesn't have end effectors. You need the end effectors in the form of humanoid robotics. You need basically lots of bots, in a nutshell. You need lots of bots. And then you can go from intelligence manifesting itself only digitally to shaping atoms. And you say, what is an economy? An economy is the production of goods and provision of services. And if you have vast numbers of robots with vast amounts of digital intelligence, you have a sort of a quasi-infinite economy. So this is really the future is going to be very, very different from the past. There's no analogy or metaphor that I think illustrates the magnitude of change that we're going to experience here.
I understand that, and I'm also trying to kind of figure out what that world will look like. But
I
in
think
some
it'll be
way you
good.
have
It's going to be pretty incredible.
Yeah, we'll also do. There are some risks
Yeah,
too.
there's
We'll come
risks.
to those. We'll come
agree.
to those. But
Yes.
just on how then you make money, because in the end,
Oh.
people are buying your shares because they expect
Make
you
money.
to make money. Do you sell
I'll
the
make another
robots?
prediction. Money won't matter in 2036.
You're watching my interview with Elon Musk. If you want to get early access to other interviews, subscribe to The Economist by clicking the link above. Now, back to the interview.
I'm not sure that the people who bought your shares think that money won't matter in 2036.
What do you want money for? You want money for goods and services, right? You want money for obviously food, housing, transport, entertainment. Well, if that is so abundant that there's more, that the robots and AI are providing more goods and services than any human could possibly consume, what do you need money for in that case?
But you're creating these robots. Are you
I guess
then
between
selling?
now and then you'll need money, sure.
Are you selling these robots? Are you selling humanoid robots, or are you producing goods and services with the humanoid robots that you control? Like, are you the Levi Strauss?
I think I would probably be. It would be an exercise in vanity for me to think that I would be controlling super genius AI that is vastly smarter than me. I think what we can and should try to do is to make sure that the AI has good values, that it cares about humanity, and that it wants us to be happy and prosper. I think it probably will be. What my biological neural net tells me is that the most important thing for AI safety is to be maximally truth-seeking and curious. If that's the case, I think it will foster humanity.
So let's unpack that. You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely. In the same way that if the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
I'm really
and we
struck by
are
this.
essentially an evolved form of chimpanzee. So it wasn't that long ago that we're swinging through the trees, eating bananas in the jungle. And we still eat bananas, by the way. We do. And there's still, bananas.
Sometimes swing through trees as well.
Yes, sometimes swing through trees is kind of fun. It's sort of reminiscent of the past. For all time's sake, swing through the trees once in a while. Probably, there should be more swinging through trees. I bet it's way more fun than people think.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on swinging through trees. I love swinging through trees. But I'm really struck listening to you say this now, because I've been listening to a bunch of things that you've said over the years.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, you were on a podcast, I think it was with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you said that the thing that terrified you most was rapid recursive self-improvement in AIs.
Yes.
And that you said, and it really struck with me, you said that we will just be the pet Labradors at the best.
Well,
then. Now you see
Labradors are pretty happy creatures. That's my experience.
But in 2023, you asked for a slowdown in AI because you were worried about it.
Well, I signed on to, as one of many, like 500 people. I was just, one of many signatories on that thing.
But I think even last year you said, I know, where was it? Ted Cruz's podcast. You said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yeah.
So you sounded worried then. Now you seem very relaxed about it. Have you changed your view?
I still think there's risk associated with AI and robots. It's not zero. I guess I've come to my sort of philosophical conclusion is to look on the bright side. I can't see any way to really stop this incredible momentum of AI and robots. And at times I sort of think, well, perhaps, even if there was a stop button, we probably shouldn't press it because the most likely outcome is incredible abundance for all.
That's what I thought, actually. It struck me that now you seem to have decided it's inevitable. Let's hope for the best and go for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, yes, pretty much. Let's enjoy the ride. Is I think my philosophy at this point. Because I mean, honestly, there seems to be just an inexorable progress here in AI and in robots. That
but
even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't.
Do you think there's still a 10 to 20% chance that killer robots mean the end of humanity? That's a high P-doom, as they say.
Well, in the long run, we're all dead, of course. So I mean, like according to the standard model of physics, the end of the universe is a long, boring, sort of thin, gray soup of gradual cooling. Meaning that's sort of the heat death of the universe is called. So now if the heat death of the universe is in fact the outcome for our reality, then it really is all about the journey. Because the destination is terrible.
Yeah, but 10 years is not very... yeah, I get that, but that could be a long way ahead.
Very long way.
And you're basically saying,
very long way.
If it's 10 to 20% in 10 years, would you go into one of your rockets if you thought there was a 10 to 20% chance of it blowing up and killing you?
Yes, but let's say you can't do anything about it.
Okay.
I guess the only thing we can try to do is minimize the probability of the bad outcome. But trying to stop the intelligence in robots, I mean, for the longest time, I declined to participate in AI, or was, created OpenAI as essentially a counterweight to Google, because at the time they had more or less a monopoly on AI. And then Anthropic spun out of OpenAI. And if anything, it seems like what my actions have really accelerated AI. I wasn't really aiming to accelerate AI, but in creating OpenAI and then having Anthropic spin out of that, and now currently Anthropic's the leader in AI. I mean, these actions have actually resulted in knock-on effects that accelerated AI, which wasn't really my intention. So it just seems like all roads lead to acceleration of AI. So then I'm like, okay, well, you can just sort of be sad about it or join the club, I suppose.
Well, you've certainly joined the club.
Yeah.
You've definitely joined the club. But
you can't beat them, join them,
Well, you've clearly done that, and very successfully. But what about trying to minimize the risks? And a number of the other leaders of model makers have been pushing for different ways to try and minimize the risks. Just last week, Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private-public regulator. I think you said it was a good starting point for discussions, I think. Do you think you guys should be working more actively to get something in place to control the risks, or do you think that's impossible too?
My recommendation to Demis, because I talked to him for a few hours before he published his piece, was that the most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies at least just meet. We'll have some sort of call once every few weeks, and just discuss any safety and security issues, and that before a breakthrough, sort of a new frontier model is released, something that sort of is far more intelligent than anything that already exists, that there's an opportunity for the various competing AI companies to test that model for any harmful effects, and to be able to recommend pausing to address some of these security issues. I think that's sort of the easy, quick thing that we can do, and it can evolve to more than that over time. But that's that I think would be a smart move.
But why haven't you done that yet? I mean, there's like 5 of you, right? I mean, everyone knows the first name,
exactly.
Dario, Demis, Sam. I mean, you don't all like each other very much.
Yeah,
but you're not all. I mean, you're also all competing, right? You all want to be first.
Yes, but that's where I think the competitors can keep each other honest. So meaning like if like I think it's quite difficult for someone in the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding and isn't driving the frontier of AI to know whether something should be released or not. However, the competitors, I think, can, if given sort of a week or two to review a new model, can highlight issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have an incentive to keep the others honest.
Do you have enough trust between you to do that? I mean, you don't much like each other. Wouldn't Sam Altman just think you're going to nick all his ideas if you did that?
Well, we're just talking about a week. Honestly, I think as little as a week is all that would be needed for private testing. It's not to hand over the AI. It's just to test it.
Have you proposed this?
Yeah, just to test it via an API or something. I think that would probably be a good thing to do.
But have you proposed it? I mean, you could presumably organize that.
That's what I suggested to Demis, and I guess I'll talk to Daria about it too. There's also, of course, some very competent Chinese AI companies that several that are very good. The new Kimi model,
Kimi K3, the one that came out last week, because I mean, it's almost as good as Fable, right? So
I think realistically, Fable is still clearly the smartest model. I think anyone realistically would say that that's still the case, but the Kimi model is getting quite close to Fable. Now, Anthropic had Mythos, from which Fable is derived. I think they had that ready in February, so they've got sort of what they call, I'm not sure what they call it, but Mythos 2 or Fable 6 or something much better than what they had in February. They almost certainly have, not almost certainly, they certainly have right now. So, and I think they could release it at any time.
Just before we get on to releasing, how do you think about the Chinese models and the geopolitics of it? Are you worried about the Chinese catching up and getting ahead?
Given that the Chinese AI companies are doing as well as they are with a relatively small amount of compute, it seems that if they had a lot of compute, there's a good chance that they would be the leaders. And at some point, they probably will have a lot of compute.
So they will be the leaders.
There's a good chance that they are the leaders at some point. You can think of like the constraints on AI are essentially electricity and AI chips. And then for physical AI, the robots. China's also got some very good robot companies. In fact, they have these like robot sporting events. I don't know if you've seen some of them.
Yes, I have. I saw them last time I was in Beijing. I saw the robots.
Well, and then they have the sort of like a boxing match or fighting match with the robots, which is quite entertaining. And I saw some video of a robot that got its head knocked off, kept fighting even with its head knocked off. It looked pretty funny. But I mean, in fact, I think the robot battles are going to be quite entertaining to watch.
But just
so China's very strong on robots, very strong on digital AI, and if you look at electricity production, you can say like AI is a function of whatever the limiting factor is. If it's chips or electricity, China has far more electricity than the United States. In fact, China has more electricity than the United States, Europe, and India combined already, and is heading to. And my guess is China gets to 4 times the electricity production of the US, which is roughly proportionate to the population.
What should the US government do about this? I mean, if you presumably it is a little alarming if you have an authoritarian regime far ahead in the most powerful technology. And clearly what the US government's been trying to do is, with the export controls and so forth, keep China back. Do you think they should ban the use of K3, Kimi K3, for example?
Well, the U.S. government can't. They can pass some law that prevents U.S. companies from using Chinese models, but they can't stop the rest of the world from using them. So it's not like the U.S. government has authority over China or the rest of the world.
Do you think they should stop U.S. companies from using them? There's talk of that right now, right?
I don't think that helps. That won't stop China from being the leader in AI. Really, it's for digital intelligence. It comes down to how much AI compute do you have? How many chips do you have, and how much power do you have? How much electricity do you have? So the constraint right now, I think, is actually slightly more on power and cooling than it is on AI chips, because the power demands of the AI chips are very, very high. We'll talk about water demands, but really the water usage of AI is negligible, or almost nothing. But the electrical demand is very high.
That's why you're thinking of orbital data centers, presumably. That's
the constraint for any AI chips not being turned on in China is electricity and like power and cooling, and the electrical equipment and everything. The rate at which AI chips are being made exceeds the rate at which new electricity is coming online
in China. Okay.
Outside of China.
Outside China, I see. Yeah.
And since China, the U.S. has banned the export of the latest AI chips to China, China is somewhat chip starved. But
they are becoming much more efficient at using the chips that they have, and that one of the striking things of Kimi K3, right, is how efficiently they.
And China is also, I think, closer than most people realize to solving the lithography problem, which would enable them to make AI chips at very large volumes. So I think there's, this shouldn't evolve into just a China conversation, but so the current constraint is electricity outside of China. In China, the constraint is chips. Once we address the power constraint with AI data centers in space, then the constraint will once again be chips outside of China.
That suggests to me that you need China and the US, if you're going to have some overall safety constraints, that they will need to work together. If you are going to try and you suggested, the 5 model makers
I think
working.
Probably it should include the Chinese companies that are doing frontier AI models too.
And do you think governments need to be involved?
My recommendation would be that if some of the leading companies in AI say that a new model is very dangerous, then they should inform the government. And a new model is very dangerous, and that the company producing that model is not taking steps to address the danger, then they should alert the government to take action to limit the release of that model. And that could be action by the Chinese government or action by the U.S. government. It's really just the U.S. government and the Chinese government that have the power to take action here.
But I guess people would be worried about relying on a group of model builders to decide whether to do this. I mean, if you look at what the US government has done with Mythos, they stepped in because they were worried about the cybersecurity risks, and they stepped in using threat of export controls to prevent the widespread release of this model. I find it hard to see how governments will not want to keep that power, that they ultimately decide whether a model gets released.
I think they should have that power, but it wasn't as though someone in the government figured out that Mythos had some scary cybersecurity risks. It was Amazon. Amazon highlighted this, and Amazon called the White House.
So you'd have a system where the model makers would check each other's work. If there was something that worried them, you'd tell the government.
Yeah.
The government would then think.
Okay, if there's something that was worrisome and that company was not doing anything to address that risk, then that would be the moment for government to step in and take action, which is literally what
How
occurred with
soon does
Mythos.
all this have to happen?
Well, I think it'd be good to do that. I think immediately, really.
Yeah, that's what people keep telling me. We have to get this some kind of system in the next 6 months because of the pace at which the models are improving.
Yeah, 6 months is a long time.
So you think shorter than that?
Well, I mean, there's so many AI breakthrough announcements, sometimes multiple per day. I mean, how many were there last week?
A lot.
I lost track.
Yeah, a lot. So you basically, whether it's Demis's proposal or others, you need to get together and get this set up kind of now. It sounds like you're telling me.
Yeah, I would recommend that we at least have some sort of informal weekly or biweekly call, and that there's maybe a week or 2 weeks of early access by competitors. And this is why I think the incentives work, is because if competing companies, I think, are likely to understand if something is a security risk, and they're not going to be shy about highlighting that their competitors' models should be delayed in release. I think the incentive structure does work quite well there. And if this is sort of how it works with the Motion Picture Association. It's an industry group that decides how movies should be rated, whether it's appropriate for young children or not. And that seems to have worked quite well. So, and then you really just ask the government to intervene if a company is doing something very dangerous and refuses to take action to reduce the danger.
Do you think this is a tricky one? But you guys don't much like each other, and you don't much trust each other. You're insulting each other on social media constantly. So do you think you can do that with people that you dislike, that where there seems to be such kind of personal vitriol between some of these leaders?
Yes. Well, I'm not a fan of Sam Altman because
You're watching my interview with Elon Musk. If you want to get early access to other interviews, subscribe to The Economist by clicking the link above. Now back to the interview.
If you started a nonprofit that was meant to be an open source AI company and owned by the world, and it somehow got turned into an $800 billion for-profit company with closed source, I think you'd be like, well, wait a second, that's the exact opposite of what I donated the money for. That's my issue. I think it's a legitimate one. And then Dario, I think, also is not a fan of Sam Altman because he felt, in fact, the reason the Anthropic team left OpenAI is because they didn't trust Sam Altman. Otherwise, Anthropic wouldn't exist. They would still be at OpenAI. I think Dario is a very principled person. He cares about things a lot. Cares about the future of the world. And I think everyone I've met at Anthropic so far has been, I'm like, no one set off my evil detector. They always seem like they're well-intentioned. And the road to hell is, I think, mostly paved with bad intentions. There are a few well-intentioned paving stones in there, so we don't want to be complacent. But at the end of the day, if we have to talk, we'll talk. I mean, set aside our personal differences for the good of the world. Type of thing.
Well, that's a very good thing for the rest of us to hear.
Yeah.
Can we turn to one other risk that people worry about, particularly, I think, ordinary Americans, where AI has become incredibly unpopular. 75% of people are worried about it, and I think they worry about their jobs. And if you look at, Dario has said famously, what 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs will be gone within a few years. You're building humanoid robots.
Yes, he also said, Dario did dig his own grave here regarding Mythos, because he said, Mythos is like super scary, terrifying, and also, by the way, we're going to release it. And then he's like, what do you mean? So I think I think probably in the future we'll choose his words differently.
But what's
because obviously if you terrify everyone and then say, oh, we're releasing this terrifying thing, people will obviously be alarmed about that. You've literally told them to be scared, and then you release the scary thing, and so they will be scared. That is natural.
So I certainly don't want you to alarm people, but I do think there is a really important debate about how quickly and to what degree AI has displaced people from jobs, because it is, as you say, if in 10 years there's more intelligence, artificial intelligence than any human intelligence.
Yes.
And if you are, and I think you're ahead of everyone, at least in this country, on powering humanoid robots, that's also going to be kind of factory work. So are you closer to Dario, let's say, in your sense of the pace at which jobs are going to be displaced?
I do think it's going to be a bumpy road, because AI will be able to do any job better than any person can do that job. And that will be true very quickly of jobs that are digital, or really anything that involves a person at a computer or on a phone. AI could do all of that. We'll be able to do all of that very soon. I mean, for software engineering, we already have a situation where AI is better than at least 90% of humans at writing software. 90% of professional software engineers at writing software. And I mean, really, it's getting to the point where it'll be better than 99%, and then it'll get to the point where there's just no way to compete. It'll get to what I call stockfish level. So stockfish. Okay, so stockfish is the chess program that stockfish is so good at chess that it will easily beat Magnus Carlsen or anyone at chess even running on a small computer. I suspect that you could probably run stockfish on your phone and beat Magnus Carlsen. That's how good it is at chess. And that's how good AI will be at writing software.
And beyond software?
And that applies to everything.
Everything. But what about you for physical jobs, for assembly jobs? You will also need the capability in humanoid robots, which so far isn't there yet, is it?
Right. So that's why I said digital AI and then physically manifested AI in the form of robots, where the robot is more or less an end effector. It would have some amount of local intelligence, but be managed by a large AI model. And I've said many times, I think work is going to be optional. So, so I think maybe a good comparison would be gardening. Like, you don't have to garden. You don't have to grow vegetables in your garden. You can go to the store and they're going to be pristine vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your garden and they will actually be less perfect. Your tomatoes are not going to be as plump and juicy as the ones at the store. They'll look a little artisanal. But if you go to a friend's house and they make dinner and it's with vegetables from their garden, it's a nice touch.
So that's
what work is going to be like.
I get that. I mean, in that world, I would be hopeless because I can't garden to save my life. But I get the idea. People still like playing chess with each other, even though every computer is better. But let's just think about the politics of this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds you're describing a world where within 10 years, pretty much every job can be done better by an intelligence. And you're seeing huge returns to this intelligence. Two people like you're the wealthiest man in the world. What people who lose their jobs, who are displaced, who may go off and garden, but how are they going to live? And what kind of, I mean, it sounds to me like
universal high income.
But how are you going to get there? Let's talk about the politics of this. Because right now, if we look at the political pressures in most countries, people are very, very worried about this, very against it. I mean, it seems to me that there's a risk that you're heading more for revolution than for an easy route to this nirvana you're playing out.
I mean, it will be a bumpy road. I'm not suggesting it will be a sort of that everything will be smooth sailing here. So, I mean, there are many jobs that used to exist that don't exist because of computers. I mean, the word computer used to refer to a person doing computations. Like, that used to be a job description of a person. And you can see pictures online of buildings that have entire skyscrapers just filled with people doing calculations to do things like calculate the interest on your bank balance. This is how things were done for a long time until computers came around. And even in the beginning, computers were very expensive and hard to use. So the thing that's different here is that the pace of change is radically accelerated. So, but still people, some people were upset that their job of calculating bank interest would no longer be available. But now I think you'll be hard pressed to find people who want to do that job. So I think I have a suggestion for, say science fiction books people might want to read to get a sense of what the future will be like. And the best envisioning of an AI future that I've read are the books by Ian Banks, the culture books.
I'm just reading Accession. So I've thanks to you, I've started reading these. But I actually don't find that future a terribly appealing one, because I don't think humans have agency in that future.
They have agency.
Minimal compared to the mind.
Small way.
But the irony, I mean, Ian Banks, as you know, was a socialist. Ian Banks had a very different political philosophy.
I'm not sure I would entirely agree with that.
Let's agree that could be where we end up. I'm concerned about the road, and we live in democracies, and people are very worried about this. So I guess two questions. Firstly, do you have to have massive redistribution from people like you to the people who are losing their jobs? Do you need to pay more tax? Do you have much higher taxes on capital so that you fund some kind of universal income? Otherwise, what do people live off?
I think that the Treasury should just simply issue people checks.
But where's the revenue coming from? I mean, I'm enough of an economist. If you just issue checks, you're going to have inflation.
This is like a lot of what we're trying to think about is these things were relevant in the past. They will not be relevant in the future. So like inflation is simply the ratio of money to goods and services. So if the goods and services output increases dramatically, if it increases, 1,000%, you can literally print, or these days change the database. It's not print money. You create money in the database, provided the creation of that money is less than the rate at which goods and services increase. You actually have deflation. So I'll make a prediction, which is that deflation will be the issue, not inflation. Because as the output of goods and services increases, if the output of goods and services increases faster than the money supply, you will have deflation.
I'm perfectly willing to believe that. You may well be right. Yeah, no, you absolutely, you may well be right. But I'm really hung up on how we get from the current polarized, angry, fearful policy we have now to this nirvana. And I think you can paint a picture where people are so scared by this, they essentially try to stop it. Maybe they can't, but you get nationalized. There's a kind of, far left government. There's exorbitant tax increases. The kind of economy crumbles because people are so worried about a future, which does sound quite scary as you describe it. So how do you handle the politics now?
It's exhilarating and terrifying.
But if you were, yeah, exactly.
Honestly, and if you ask me on any given day, I in fact, even from exhilaration to terror regarding AI.
And
so I want to be clear. I'm not
now?
I'm not sort of some, I'm not trying to be sort of candide here and just be some, everything's wonderful, some Panglossian view of the world where everything's, going to be great. No risk. I'm saying there is some risk.
I think we agree on that. I guess I'm trying to be more sort of, small bore and practical and think about what can be done now to limit those risks. And you gave a very strong argument for what you and your fellow model makers could do. What should governments do?
I think it probably would be good for us to coordinate and just highlight issues that we see in each other's models to mitigate downside risk.
What should the government, should you be paying more tax to fund more transfer programs?
Well, first of all, I do pay a lot of tax. So, in fact, I set a record for the most amount of taxes ever paid by by a human.
That's also because you're the world's richest man.
Well, even before that. So my guess is that I will pay many trillions in tax, and I'm fine with that. So yeah, that's just the way it's going to be. But I don't think in a future where money is relevant, I think taxation also becomes somewhat irrelevant.
And what about giving people a sense that they have a share in the upside?
Sure.
Giving people shares in SpaceX and Tesla. Do you think that's and there's a lot of talk about this right now.
Well, one of the reasons I took SpaceX public is so that the public could participate in, they could own a piece of SpaceX. Whereas as a private company, we're very limited in the number of shareholders we're allowed to have before going public. So as a public company, we can have millions of shareholders. As a private company, we're limited to just a few thousand shareholders. So
do you think there should be distribution of shares? Like, the Alaska Wealth Fund is there for, could you imagine a world, and some people talk about the Trump accounts being a kind of vehicle for this, that a share of your equity goes to ordinary Americans?
Right. Well, in the taxes that I pay, I mean, I'll so for my stock options, I pay 40% income tax on a national basis, and then because I spend, I don't know, about 30% of my time in California, thereabouts, I pay another sort of roughly a third of the California state taxes, which are now around 15%. So I pay about 45% in taxes, just so people know this. I don't know. So roughly half. Mm-hmm. Then when I die, there'll be another sort of 45%, roughly half that will be taxed. So at the end of the day, I'll have a quarter of whatever I have. But I think the other thing it gives me is that for some period of time, I would have control of the direction of the companies. So it's not that's pretty much what it gets me. And until I guess the AI is so smart that it's in charge, and at that point, controlling companies won't really matter.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think one of the other things that worries people about the direction we're heading in, and I'm going to caricature it, but people think that the direction of the world is being shaped by a very small number of incredibly powerful people, and you are right at the top of that list.
So what else is? But is this different from the past?
I agree with you. I think it was like that.
when wasn't that the case?
It was ever thus, but
it was ever thus. Exactly.
It is as you've described very vividly. It's an incredibly rapid change. And so let's start with control of your company, which you definitely have now. After SpaceX, the IPO, you have 80% odd of voting shares, and as I understand it, you can only be removed by a vote of shares which you yourself control. So tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you can go crazy.
Companies in that bucket, by the way, the AI companies, like Google's in that bucket. Alphabet is controlled by Larry and Sergey.
But I think yours is more extreme. The inability
it's the same level of they have voting control of that company. Mark Zuckerberg has control of the Meta, and Mark is trying very hard on the AI front, and I think probably will also have a leading AI. I think he released one last week. So I think he'll be one of the, Meta will be one of the AI companies.
But is it sensible for one person to have so much control over a company?
Well, I really just need to make sure that I can focus on long-term. By long-term, I just mean in the 5 to 10 years. So one of the challenges with being a public company is that the sort of the pressure to have great results every single quarter, but and to not really invest in things that may only pay off in 5 to 10 years. And in the case of SpaceX, I want to extend consciousness beyond Earth and have a growing civilization on the moon, Mars, and elsewhere in the solar system. The return, I think ultimately this would have a very high return on investment, but in the short term, we'll be spending all this money on a moon base and a Mars base, and then people are like, I'm gonna get all this pressure for like, well, you missed your earnings this quarter because you spent too much on Mars. I'm like, yes. By the way, that was in the S1 prospectus, and it's literally listed as a thing we will do. So we did. So, but they still get grumpy about these things, you know. Because they're like, well, you had whatever, you know, you said your gross margin would be this, and it's actually slightly worse, and now we're going to punish you, and the short sellers all descend upon you, and you get a lot of pressure.
You're going to get a lot of that.
Yeah, so I just need some way to sort of, you know, say like, listen, guys, we're going to focus on 5 to 10 year or longer time horizon investments. This will depress our short-term earnings, but I mean, if you take a long-term view, and there are investors, we have many investors that do take a long-term view. In fact, I'm a big fan of the retail investors. In fact, I find our retail investors, on balance, they're very insightful and have very long-term views. But part of this comes, you say, what's the incentive structure? Is for portfolio managers, it's sort of understandable why they put so much pressure on quarterly earnings, because their compensation and and whether they get promoted or not is dependent on how their portfolio does, and they only have a few years to make these decisions, and then they're evaluated based on those decisions over the course of sometimes only a year or less, and so since they're under pressure to have immediate returns, they then put companies under pressure to have immediate returns. So once you understand the incentive structure, the behavior naturally follows.
What about the key man risk? I mean, what happens? You know, heaven forbid, but what happens if you get run over by the proverbial bus tomorrow? You know, it is you have total control over these companies. Do you have a plan for how they would progress without you?
I think they would actually do very well for several years, and you know, there's a clear roadmap or space map, I should say, for SpaceX, and there's a roadmap actually for Tesla, literally. So I think there's, you know, if you look at Apple after Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs had, you know, he had a strategic vision and a bunch of products that he had ideas for, and Apple has done very well. But when you don't have a creative genius like Steve Jobs, what you miss, what Apple's missing are the incredible breakthrough products.
Yeah.
So they make amazing phones, you know, great computers, but Apple hasn't come up with this sort of Steve Jobs level breakthrough product.
So by analogy, that's what you bring to all of your companies. You mentioned Mars. You know, most people think of you as the man who wants to, you know, create a colony on Mars, so we have multi-planetary civilization.
I've been saying that for such a long time.
You have, but now you seem more focused on AI and what AI will do in the next 10 years. And you sound much more excited about using the moon as a base from which to, you know, pop out orbital AI satellites. Have you shifted your attention away from Mars, or are you as interested in colonizing Mars as you ever were?
I'm interested in the set of actions that propagate consciousness into the future to the maximum degree possible, so that the future light cone of consciousness is as big as we could, you know, like that. You know, there's an exciting future where we're a spacefaring civilization out there among the stars, and the great things that are envisioned in the non-dystopian sci-fi books and movies become real one day. I sort of want the Star Trek, you know, Star Wars future. Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw in a theater, by the way.
Really?
It's probably maybe had a profound effect on me, I suppose. So I remember I was it blew my mind, honestly. I think I was 6 years old, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Has your life been about making that happen?
Yeah, I didn't think it would be, but when I was young, but my life feels somewhat surreal. I can't believe these things are actually happening. You know,
I think the world
makes
feels somewhat
me
surreal.
believe in simulation theory, where it's like, well, like the things I'm doing are so preposterous that it's hard to believe they're real. I mean, we've got Starship, which is the largest, most powerful flying object ever made. And we intend to launch that more than once per hour.
I know, I read that. And we can, people can quibble about how quickly it happens, but I think based on your track record, we should assume it will happen at some point.
It will happen.
I'm just sort of struck that when I am as blown away by this world as you are, and I watch it from a much more naive level, but for me, the whole evolution of AI and the capabilities of these models is in and of itself so mind-blowing.
It's pretty much happening as I thought it would.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And not just me, many people predicted this. I think Ray Kurzweil's predictions have been remarkably accurate.
Yeah, the singularity.
Yeah.
Approaching. Let's go back more immediately to the here and now. We've talked about concentration of control in your companies. You've made a very good case for why you should have it. You also have, through Starlink, incredible geopolitical power. I mean, I'm one of your customers.
Thank you.
Excellent product.
Great.
But without them, the Ukrainians would have been in serious trouble. And when
yes, the Ukrainian government has publicly thanked Starlink many times for being instrumental in defending Ukraine.
And you recently decided to prevent the Russians in the occupied territories from having access to Starlink.
Well, no, we were never at any point selling Starlink to Russians.
But they were grabbing it, right? They were using it, and you've now stopped them from doing that.
Well, they essentially got Starlink units that they ordered through Ukraine, and then smuggled them into into eastern Ukraine where the Russians are, and were then using them in some cases for attacks. Now, in order to address this, what we worked with the Ukrainian government to create a whitelist of approved Starlink terminals. Now, this has some downsides because a whole bunch of people who were just innocent users of Starlink and just trying to access the internet for work or for education now don't have Starlink.
These are geopolitical decisions of consequence. How do you feel about having that power? You can determine the outcome of wars. How does that feel? And is it right that you should have that power?
Well, I'm not sure we're determining the ultimate outcome of the war in Ukraine. I think I do hope that there's some sort of peace agreement reached soon, because for 2 or 3 years now, the border has barely moved, and every day there are lots of people dying at the front line, and I think there's a lot of wishful thinking here of people saying, well, Russia should completely withdraw, etc. But this is not realistic. I really think there needs to be some, a piece with that is that, we have to be pragmatic about this. What I think would be terrible is if there's another 3 years of people dying senselessly at the front lines, and you have to say, like, well, how do you explain to the children of the men that are dying at the front lines? Russia, on the Russian side too, by the way, they've been conscripted and sent there. I am quite offended by sort of fancy diplomats who have 7-course dinners in luxurious places while people are dying at the front lines, and who pontificate about how Russia should withdraw, but Russia's not going to withdraw. So there really needs to be an accepted peace along those lines.
And do you think it's your responsibility to play a role in tipping the scales towards what you see as the right way to peace?
I've been advocating peace for a long time. I posted a few years ago that there really needs to be some concession here to Russia. This is not me being pro-Russia. I'm just being pragmatic. or people will die for years with nothing achieved. And that is exactly what happened.
I don't know. I mean, the Ukrainians are doing pretty well right now at, with their incredible drone capacity hitting inside Russia, and the kind of general consensus is that the balance of the war is shifting. But my point is not so much
Ukraine
about what
is not going to retake those territories. It is not going to happen.
My interest is really on whether you think, given that you have through Starlink, you have an incredible power, whether it's appropriate that you should wield it. And that's quite rare, that an individual actor has such power by turning on and off a capability to shape conflict.
Well, is there something you think I should do differently?
I mean, I think you were right to support Ukraine. I think that, as it won't surprise you, I think that the Russian aggression was, for many, many reasons, an appalling aggression. And I think that was an important thing that you did. Yeah,
I mean, I did a very deep dive into the background of that conflict to understand exactly what was going on. I'm reminded of the old adage that there are no angels in war.
It's a similar tone, I think, about domestic politics, where you've played a big role domestically, politically here. You spent a lot of money on Donald Trump's re-election. After the election, you got very actively involved. Through Doge, you tried to cut a lot of spending, reshape the government. How do you feel that it wasn't hugely successful in the sense that, there wasn't nearly as much spending cut as you tried? How do you, as you look back on that, do you regret getting so involved in politics? Do you think it was a good thing to do?
I think I got a little too involved in politics, got carried away, frankly. So the the goal with the sort of Doge stuff was to try to do something about the deficit, which is massive, where the interest payments exceed the amount of money spent on the Department of War. Like, basically, if you add up all the money spent on what is now the Department of War and the and intelligence in the U.S., that is smaller than the interest payments on the debt. So that we need to sort of take a close look at spending. And make sure that money is being spent in sensible ways and that it is not wasted or spent on fraudulent activities. I got a lot of flack from this for this, obviously. But the people don't understand just how simple it was for the Doge team to approve payments. If we had literally we just asked to have the contact information of the recipient, or some evidence that, say, money was going to its intended purpose. But over and over that we're told, we need to wire money for some sort of important cause in Africa. And we're like, okay, but the wiring instructions are to Deloitte & Touche in DC, in Washington, DC, not to Africa. So we would like to send the money to Africa. Can you please connect us with the recipients so we can send them the money directly? And then we get silence.
We don't need to relitigate Doge. I have no doubt that there's a lot of waste in the US government. I think probably
much worse than anyone could possibly imagine.
But the way, I think it is a fair criticism that the way you shut down a whole bunch of programs probably, in fact, certainly caused unnecessary suffering. I mean,
no.
You don't buy that at all?
It caused a lot of complaining.
You're watching my interview with Elon Musk. If you want to get early access to other interviews, subscribe to The Economist by clicking the link above. Now, back to the interview.
You don't buy the idea that anybody, to put it really crudely and simply, any kid in Africa died because of the suddenness with which...
Zero.
I just don't think that's right. I just don't think... I've had people reporting in Africa who...
How many NGOs are there that could step in? Because bear in mind, it happened quickly. And there are literally tens of thousands of NGOs.
Yeah, not everyone functions as fast as you do. If funding is cut off for antiretrovirals overnight, and it just stops, then people will die when they don't have access to them. And it just
only if they cannot get funding for that. But the Gates Foundation has $50 billion. What about them? What about any one of a number of organizations? What about
Well, in lots of these countries, USAID.
Mackenzie, whatever her last name is, used to be Bezos, gave $50 billion. What about that?
But let's be practical. In many of these countries, USAID was the biggest funder. But I don't want to have an argument.
USAID was a political organization.
It may also have been that, but it was the biggest funder of healthcare systems. So I'm very
biggest
sure that there was
of regime change.
And there may well be benefits from having changed.
Also, USAID funding was not stopped; it was moved to the State Department.
It was stopped. There were huge numbers of things shut down in Africa that were
there were claims
related.
of this. These claims are false. They're nonsense, and absolute nonsense. But obviously, just for when funding is stopped for fraudulent organizations or for something, do you think they're going to say? Well, please keep funding the fraud, or do you think they're going to come up with a sad story that sounds sympathetic in order to get the funding restored? Obviously, it will be the latter, and that's exactly what they did. But zero died because of
that's
Doge.
what I would take issue with. Because I think I actually have a lot of sympathy for the change of the aid regime that the US under the Trump administration has precipitated. However, I think the pace and the suddenness with which it happened will almost certainly have caused unnecessary suffering and deaths. And I think both of those can be true.
I think that's totally false.
Okay. Well,
let's obviously false, because there are the amount of funding we're talking about is far less than what can be done, than what can be supported via private, via foundations like the Gates Foundation or Mackenzie Bezos's foundation. She's given away tens of billions of dollars. The Gates Foundation has tens of billions of dollars. They are capable of acting very quickly. And if they didn't, I would say they're equally responsible.
I see. Okay.
Obviously.
All right. Fair point.
Zero people died because of Doge.
I hear you loud and clear.
Zero.
Hear you loud and clear.
Obviously.
Domestically, you stepped away from Doge. It was hard to do what you were trying to do. You've just explained it. But this administration has gone in directions that I suspect you were not expecting 2.5 years ago.
I'm not going to agree with everything any administration does.
Are you disappointed by this administration?
No, I think this administration, on balance, is excellent. No administration is perfect, but it's vastly better than the alternative.
Can we talk about Europe, a place that you are very, very focused on?
I'm not that focused on Europe.
I think, judging by your posts, you're pretty concerned about Europe. You support.
I've once in a while I post something.
It's reasonably frequently. It's not once in a while, but because I'm genuinely interested in this. As someone who lives in Europe, lives in London.
Yeah.
You paint a picture. Well, first of all, you support not just the populist right, but the far right. In fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
Okay.
What do you call the far right? Falsely.
You think is the normal person? Okay.
Yes. Literally, you could go back 10 or 15 years, and these policies were completely normal. In fact, one of the tricks that I think is funny. One of the things that's quite funny is to take a speech from Obama and Hillary, and then go to someone and say, who's sort of on the sort of what I call the lunatic left, and say, what do you think of the speech by Trump? I'm like, oh wow, he's the worst person ever. Actually, that was a speech by Obama, or actually, that was a speech by Hillary.
I agree. No, I agree that the center of gravity in this country has shifted. Certainly, the Democratic Party shifted to the left, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people like Rupert Lowe. I'm talking about people.
It's actually just normal people. It's just normal people. It's just normal people, and here are the principles. And tell me which of these sound terrible. That we should have secure borders. That we should have safe cities. That we should have sensible spending. Which of those three are far right fringe? No, and I would like to just admonish you and the media for the absurd characterization of the far right. It is false and misleading and nonsense. Please keep this part in.
We'll keep all of this in, but let me
cut this part.
Let me push back on that. Let me push back on that
because
you have
nonsense.
Elon, you have, what is it? Close to 250 million followers on X.
Yeah,
you say things like,
popular guy.
Quote, civil war in Britain is inevitable. Just a question
on the current
of when.
trends, yes.
I mean, When were you last in the UK?
A few years ago.
Exactly. So I live there. I'm there the whole time. That is nonsense.
You live in a cloistered existence.
No, I don't actually. And the numbers also disprove what you say.
What numbers?
All the numbers about crime. London is a much safer city than any city in the United States. Violent crime in the UK is not where you think it is. In fact, it's coming down. You have painted, and because you have so many followers, so many Americans believe it, a kind of view that Europe and the UK are kind of, overrun with terrifying Muslim immigrants. There's rape on every corner. There's a sort of civilizational destruction.
I haven't said any of those things.
Just not, well, you say civil war in Britain is inevitable. And
yes, if current trends continue, it is.
Why?
Well, if you have a large and rapidly growing group of people whose beliefs are antithetical to Western beliefs, at some point there will be a reckoning. That they will try to implement their views, and those who oppose it will oppose it, and that's what you call civil war. And obviously, this is the trend. And you absolutely do live in a cloistered existence. And if you'd like, we can go on a tour of Britain.
Sure. I'd be very happy to come on a tour of Britain.
And you will see for yourself.
You come see my country that I live in all the time, and you haven't been to a few years ago.
I've been there literally 100 times.
But when was the last time?
It's literally a few years ago.
You know why this exercises me? Because you have really shaped opinion about the UK, and so many Americans I come across and I have conversations with, and I just had one the other day along the order of, oh, London's such a dangerous place. How can you know? There are sort of grooming gangs everywhere. There's violence everywhere. This is a picture that people get from things that you post or that are posted on X. And for example, you're posting for, what was it, 48 Hours of Citizen Vigilante. That film, which, paints a dystopian, I've watched it.
Yes.
It was not fun. I watched it yesterday. It's not a very good movie, but it also paints a dystopian picture of Europe, and it glorifies vigilante violence. It glorifies the murdering of a Muslim immigrant family. I honestly think that it is irresponsible for you to put that up on X.
I think that it's a movie, and it's worth watching.
You're clearly suggesting Europe is a dystopian place, and you...
Yes, I mean, why aren't you doing more to fight censorship in Europe? Why aren't you? You seem to be doing nothing to fight censorship in Europe.
That's not true. I think that
they put
there
people
are issues
in
with
prison in the UK for social media posts. Do you think that's appropriate?
No, and we've written editorials against it. But
okay,
I don't
great.
think.
Then
my
that's
point is
the sort of thing that I think is bad.
And I think and I agree with you, but I don't think you have to glorify vigilante violence and kind of, post the things that you are doing and paint an entirely inaccurate picture of Europe that you do.
I don't think it is.
We should do a tour of the UK.
Yes, and one of Brussels too.
Because the UK has actually been very good at integrating immigrants. The UK is very effective at doing that. There are problems. I'm the first to admit that there are problems.
Yes, there are major problems.
There are problems, but it really is not what you are describing to or suggesting to your 240 million followers.
I think it is.
And I think there's a problem.
No, I think I'm spot on.
We'll have to.
And that's why you have freedom of speech, or at least
freedom of speech allows people
UK.
to say things that are wrong. But your point is not that you're not just saying I have every right to say what I want. You're saying, I am right about Europe, and I really don't think you are.
I think I am.
I think you will find that most people in Europe, or many people in Europe, don't think you're right about it. But let's come to that.
Yes, because the media keeps ignoring reality.
I don't think that's true either.
And they're programmed by the TV and conventional media.
And why are you? This is, I guess, even to me, sort of the bigger picture question. Why do you focus on this? Why are you interested in it? Because on the one hand, we started this conversation and you described to me this extraordinarily transformative, amazing, civilizational changing stuff that's happening in the next 10 years.
Yes.
And yet you're also, an ongoing participant in the worst kind of tribalism, cesspit of social media. Like, how does that fit? Are you, on the one, they're two very different views of the world.
Yeah, I don't think they're inconsistent.
But why do you do the latter one, the tribalism? I mean, people say that you're a racist. People say that you're, there's all kinds of things said about you, which I'm sure you would disagree with. But I just don't understand. What is the motivation for doing that? Are you
my
fomenting?
partner is she's half Indian, and and I have 4 children with her. One of them was named after a famous Indian physicist. So I would say I'm not racist. And also, if you look at the people that are employed at my companies, we have senior executives of all races. There's I don't think there's any racism there.
Are you anti-Muslim?
I'm against having if people are coming to a country with antithetical views. I am against that. I'm against that. I'm against I'm against rape and murder. I'm against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West. And I think it's a crying shame that the sort of traditional media, like you, don't recognize this.
First of all, I think that you hugely exaggerate the challenges that Europe faces. Secondly, in areas I completely agree with you. I think that the constraints on freedom of speech in the UK in certain areas are problematic. What worries me is that the people you are supporting are really quite vile people in some areas. Like some members of the AfD, Alice Weidel, whom I've met, is a perfectly thoughtful person, but in her party are some real neo-Nazis, are some really, really awful people. And your blanket support of this kind of party with 240 million followers means that you have a power in Europe that I think perhaps you don't realize the scale of impact you have, but you can.
Well, good. I hope I am having a big impact.
But why? Why should you? Why should you be able to shape European politics? You don't even live there.
I think of it as the sort of the West collectively.
But do you see why this makes people think that this man who has all this power, he's the world's richest man, he thinks he has a right to influence our politics? It makes people, it's why, we started this conversation saying superlatives. It's why people loathe you. I mean, some people do loathe you.
Yes, some people do.
But do you understand why? Do you think what you're doing is helpful for Western democracy?
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't. And I think a lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize. Do you realize the media is despised? Do you realize that journalists, the view of journalists is like, it's like a favorable view of journalists is like 15%.
I do know that in the United States.
So the shoe is on the other foot. They hate you. They hate you far more than they hate me.
I think there is certainly a loss of trust in journalism. I think in part there have been mistakes by journalists and journalism. I totally acknowledge that. But I also think that the kind of polarized environment, particularly on social media, fostered by the kinds of things you are pushing on X, actually helps this, makes it worse.
I don't think so. I think you're the problem, the media. And speaking of loathing, you're loathed far more than I am. And you don't seem to even realize that.
I think very few people know who I am relative to you, so I don't think I play in the same game.
The media collectively. So, I mean, you're hated. Do you even know that? You probably don't.
I like to think that I'm aware of my own personal shortcomings and the Economist's shortcomings and our worldview's shortcomings. Yeah. But what we stand for, as you know, is liberal values, traditional classical liberal values, where we worry about concentrations of power and we believe in the individual and the dignity of the individual and individual freedom.
Right. I agree with that.
Firmly believe that. And I have long thought that you were a classical liberal. But when I read what you post, classical liberal, J.S. Mill, limited government, individual freedom.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But when I read what you post on your feed, I sometimes wonder whether you really do believe in that.
I literally said, look, I believe in safe cities, secure borders, and sensible spending with respect to government.
Does the
That
US,
doesn't make me right-wing at all, in the least.
does the US or do European countries score better on those?
The U.S. is better.
No.
Yes.
Safe cities, much more dangerous in the US than the UK. Sensible spending, bigger deficit here, out of control. You failed to reduce it. Secure borders now under the Trump administration, I agree with you, before not. But on 2 out of 3, unequivocally, Europe is in a better place. Yet you seem to paint a picture of Europe being a hellhole.
I don't think Europe's a hellhole.
Okay, we can agree on something.
When did I ever say that?
Well, the picture you paint of Europe
No,
on X is
you're
a
making up things.
No, I'm not.
You're
You
just literally making it up.
say civil war in Britain is inevitable, and then you basically proselytize for this citizen vigilante film, which really does paint Europe as a hellhole. It just starts with ominous music, and it says Europe.
Well, there was out of control rape and murder.
It's more dangerous in this country than it is in Europe.
Where there is danger in this country is because we failed to incarcerate repeat violent offenders, and that's the classic sort of Soros DA or judges that fail to incarcerate repeat violent offenders. And if somebody gets arrested 50 times, literally, for violent crimes, and eventually they're going to kill somebody. So you either incarcerate them or people will die.
I think the prevalence of guns has quite a lot to do with it too. I mean, this is a much more dangerous country. Murder rates are much higher, in large part because there are so many guns.
Well, let me give you an interesting number. There are more people that die in Europe from heat deaths than people that die from gun deaths in America. Why aren't you writing an article about air conditioning?
Well, we've done several on air conditioning, and we had on our cover last week a whole long piece about why
pro air conditioning.
Yeah, we're very pro air conditioning.
Okay, good. Well, good.
Very pro.
Good
You should read us. Absolutely.
So, credit where it's due. Credit's where it's due.
I think you have a view of The Economist that is not entirely accurate. So you come look at England, start reading The Economist, and I will, stand corrected on my criticism of you in this area.
There are many parts of Britain and Europe which are not safe. You can't just walk around.
But there are far more in this country. Far more.
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's go and get my fact checkers to check that.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Let's move on from this, because I think I've got a sense of why you're doing what you're doing.
The point is not that the question is not is America perfect? The question is, does Europe have a serious and growing problem?
The question
Absolutely,
is,
it has a
which
serious
is
and
more
growing
dangerous?
problem.
That's where we started this.
Europe has a serious and growing problem. I'm not going to say that the United States has no problems. Of course it does, but we should all try to address these issues.
We can agree on that. We should all try to address the problems. My point was simply that I think you exaggerate the scale of Europe's problem, and that
I think people are asleep at the switch and do not realize the magnitude of the issue.
I also think that your interventions, however well-intentioned they may be, risk making Europe's problem a lot worse.
How?
Because you are putting your support behind people who are proto-authoritarians, who are not trying simply to, make sure there is better integration of Muslims or to secure the borders, but who have very clear fascist tendencies, and you will cause huge divisions within Europe.
I think what you're saying is total fiction, and really, I'm simply saying that that Europe has to have secure borders.
Okay, on that we agree.
And should not let in vast numbers of people with views that are antithetical to the accepted views in Europe, and where there will not be some level of safe cultural integration. This is simply common sense.
If all you are saying is Europe should have secure borders, I completely agree with you. Then I have misunderstood what your interventions have been on social media, because that is not what the view I have not what I would conclude, having seen what the people you are supporting and the things you're doing. But if that's your goal, I share your goal that Europe should have secure borders. I
Yes.
think that's perfectly agreeable. That gets me to a question.
And let me explain what the fundamental forcing function here is for why the borders are not secure, which is when you have a welfare state that provides substantial benefits to anyone who comes there, you create a very powerful economic forcing function for anyone who is below that standard of living to come to Europe. It is an obvious, powerful driving force, and people will come there if their standard of living is, from what they get in Europe, is above where they are elsewhere in the world. It's very basic.
I completely agree with that.
Yes,
I don't
it's a
disagree
very
with that.
basic incentive structure.
I think economic conditions, economic influences determine a lot of migration. I think asylum is a separate issue, but I think you're absolutely right. There are pressures for migration. However, there are other things that you haven't focused on, which is migration brings a lot of benefits, and it also particularly does so in a continent like Europe, which is a rapidly aging continent. So we can agree that completely uncontrolled borders are a bad idea, but I think Europe benefits from having immigration, controlled immigration. It brings.
Yes, I'm in favor of immigration. Obviously, I'd be hypocritical if I wasn't, since I'm an immigrant to the United States. I'm in favor of immigration if the person immigrating is going to be a productive member of society, if they're going to be honest, and if they're not going to mistreat people in that country they're going to.
I can agree on all of those.
Yes.
But I think that Europe does better on that than you give it credit for. That's, I think, where we disagree. But let's move on. Tell me, what do you think people get most wrong about you?
Well, I mean, you just got a whole bunch of things wrong about me. Pretty much everything in the last, just rewind the last 20 minutes, still wrong.
So I got wrong your.
Well, let's not be repetitive here.
Okay. So that political side of you people get most wrong.
Yeah, my political views are very are centrist. They're not far right, and frankly, calling it far right, I think, is an insult to history, an insult to many peoples, and it is an outrageous falsehood. It's completely absurd. I literally have stated my position, which is that, and I've been very clear about this, which is that there need to be secure borders. That if there's an influx of immigrants, they need to be people who will agree that with Western ideals, with Western values. And if they don't, and if there's a long-term growth of people who do not, or in some cases are adamantly opposed to Western values, you are setting yourself up for civil war. This is obvious. A child can see this. But this is not a right-wing view. I'm simply stating reality.
Well, I think we can both agree that evidence will be able to decide which of us is more or less right. And we will find evidence for both of our views in different parts of Europe. The question is what the overall
I'm very
tells.
good at predicting the future. I'm not perfect, but I'm very good at predicting the future. My batting average is very high for a human. But this does have somewhat of a Cassandra effect, where people don't believe that what I'm saying is likely to be true, because I can see into the future with a higher not perfectly, but with a higher probability of success than most people. Mm-hmm. So, and including things that people believe to be, in some cases, counterintuitive. Again, I'm not saying I'm always right. I certainly am not. But my batting average is very good. But this does have, like I said, a Cassandra effect where people don't realize that what I'm saying will come to pass. Maybe not exactly in the timing that I thought, but it will come to pass. History will write the verdict. But I think you will see that very little of what I've said is inaccurate, and a supermajority of what I've said is very accurate and will come to pass. unless there's some change in direction.
Do you have higher confidence level in your expectations of the future for AI, the first part of our conversation, or the latter part, the political part?
AI is digital superintelligence. It's called the singularity, like a black hole, because you don't know what's going to happen after that. And it sort of sucks in everything. So I think really, in terms of the really big macro effects here, AI and robots will really dominate everything. So on a time scale that is less than 10 years.
Which probably renders this other stuff that we've been talking about less important and less relevant.
The AI robotics revolution will happen sooner. It'll happen sooner than civil war in Britain. I would say civil war in Britain is probably 20 years away, and the AI robot singularity is 10 years away.
Well, hopefully these benign, all-powerful AIs will prevent such outcomes.
They probably will.
Elon, I don't agree with everything you say, but it's always absolutely fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
No, you're welcome. I'm not boring.
You're definitely not boring.
All right. What up? What up? It is Tuesday, 5 p.m. We're back with an all-new edition of What Are Your Thoughts? We have a jammed-packed show, a lot to say, not a lot of time to say it in. I do want to give a couple of quick shout-outs in the chat, mostly because people are saying nice things about my hair. First, the nice thing about Michael. Leave the Gene Pool said, Batnick predicted that this broadening out would create a weird environment months ago. It's a great call by Michael. I agree. C. Paul Breezy, JB got that John Gruden hair school for men look working. I guess. Josh looks like
you could use a visor.
Yeah.
It's visor season.
Josh looked like a golden rooster on CNBC today. You're damn right I did. All right. Who else is here? Sam F. is in the house. Cliff Peebles is back. Noah Turner says, what up? Magnus is here. Jacobs 2001. Bloom Energy. Blooming after hours like Josh's hair. All right. It's enough of that. Who's the sponsor tonight, Michael?
It is DBMF. This podcast is brought to you by them, the world's largest managed futures ETF. Alternatives should do two things: be uncorrelated to traditional asset classes and deliver strong performance. But many alternatives don't do those things very well. That's where DBMF comes in. With its revolutionary low-cost approach, DBMF has quickly become the world's largest managed futures ETF, delivering both alpha-generating returns and genuine diversification to portfolios. Find out why managed futures should be a foundational part of any alternatives allocation at www.dbmf.com/WAYT. The fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses must be considered carefully before investing. The statutory and summary prospectuses contain this and other important information about the investment company. It may be obtained by visiting www.imgp.com. The IMGP DBI Managed Futures Strategy ETF is distributed by Alps Distributors, Inc.
All right, gangsters. We say this every quarter, and every time we say it, it's always true. We are in the most important week, statistically and perhaps emotionally, for earnings season. We are going to hear in the next 2 nights from 4 of the biggest companies in the world, and arguably the comments, not just the numbers from those companies, matter just as much for the rest of the overall market. Or do they? Microsoft and Meta are tomorrow after the close, and the following night on Thursday, we're going to get Apple and Amazon. Quick programming note, I want to let you guys know we're going to finish out the week with the Compound and Friends, and we're bringing our friend and perhaps the world's foremost authority on big tech, Alex Kantrowitz, back on the show. So tonight we're going to do a preview of the big storylines going into these reports. And then on Friday, we're going to give you like the postmortem. Here's what happens. The reveal, and here's what you actually need to take away. So we have you covered front and back. Let's start with Microsoft. Michael, you said before this is the one that you pay the most attention to, or you look forward to the most. Is that still true?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I take it back. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember thinking that. But go on. What did I say? I say a lot of things.
I don't know specifically, but I think you were just talking about it in terms of its importance to the ecosystem, and maybe because it's in the biggest drawdown of the whole group and all that open AI exposure. And I think you said last time they reported, like, this is the one that you're looking most forward to. I don't know. I guess it's not still the case now.
I feel like you might be misquoting me. I don't know.
Well, that definitely.
Well, listen, here's the. I mean, Microsoft is the biggest software stock in the world. Yes. And so, yeah, you're damn right. I'm interested to hear what they have to say. Absolutely.
All right. We'll roll the tape back. We'll see if you ever said that or if my own internal AI hallucinated it. Here's I'm going to give you the expectations, and then, Michael, you can react to it. $4.24 on earnings, revenue of $87.7 billion. The entire conversation around Microsoft is not about the software business these days. It's about Azure. Azure grew 40% last quarter. Investors want to hear 39 to 40% this quarter. The other big number, the CapEx number, $190 billion is what the company said they're on pace to spend for calendar 2026, which is an insane number. So we're going to watch for that growth rate. CapEx versus free cash flow is really the big part of the story. We know that the hyperscalers with cloud data businesses are very happy to see that free cash flow squashed to zero and continue to spend. I do think Copilot monetization is going to matter here. So I guess that's sort of their software business. Paid Copilot seats broke 20 million last quarter. That was over 250% over the prior year. So any update on seat growth could be taken positively. The other thing that's happened is that Microsoft recently gave up Azure's exclusivity serving OpenAI models. And so now that exclusivity is gone. And I think people are going to want some clarity. Well, what is going to be the AI strategy on the software side? The last thing here, we talked about this earlier, Michael, the commercial backlog. The number right now is $627 billion, which is so big, so unbelievably gigantic. I think it partially explains the patience that investors have with all this CapEx spending. Think about how big that number is. I wasn't sure exactly what gets considered commercial backlog. And Michael, I think you and I didn't know the answer, like what really goes in there. So I thought I'd share what it's actually made up of. It's multi-year Azure consumption commitments. So these are enterprises that have signed deals to spend a certain amount over the coming years, but it's backlog until they actually book it. It's Office 365 and Microsoft 365 subscription contracts. Again, these are multi-year. It's server and cloud enterprise agreements. And it's large AI infrastructure commitments, including the OpenAI deal. So it's almost like at whatever revenue they're not booking immediately just gets added onto that pile. And so the quarterly revenue only reflects what's actually been delivered and recognized. We want to see, I think if we're long, we want to see upside to that $627 billion because it's evidence that the return for all this CapEx is actually on its way in the form of signed commitments from enterprise customers. Did I explain that well?
You did. It's funny, Josh. You and I think alike. After the show last week, I did the exact same thing. Made sure I was educated on what the backlog is, and it's exactly what you think it is. It's exactly how you described it.
Okay. Anything else on Microsoft here? You think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be eventful?
So I actually took a shot in the stock a couple of weeks ago. I bought some software names. I bought Microsoft, Workday, and ServiceNow 3 weeks ago or so. Okay. And I think I'm probably good. What's that?
You still long?
Yeah, modest positions. I burned my hand a couple times on those stoves. I'm probably going to whack it off at the open, and that's a teaser for later in the show. I don't love the setup going into the call. And
It's limping into the report.
Yes, it's uninspiring.
Okay, Meta. So I thought we would steal some commentary from Mark Mahaney for this one. We're borrowing it. We're not stealing it. Consensus $7.23 on $60 billion in revenue. Almost the entirety of that is advertising. It's almost the whole business. The big question here is if AI-driven ad targeting is still moving the needle enough to justify the massive CapEx, and how do margins look? The growth will be there. This is like, of all the problems Meta has, growth is not one of them. So this is Mark Mahaney points to 5 specific things to watch out for, and I'll just list them and I'll get your reaction. 1, Meta should be able to print revenue near the top end of its guidance range, $61 billion. That would be a 28% year-over-year revenue growth number, which is fantastic. Nuts. Yeah. And he's saying that given the perceived strength in the ad market, and they've done all these checks, and I won't bore you with it, but it doesn't look like there's any sort of pullback in ad spending generally. And of course, Meta is one of the biggest platforms in the world for advertising. So the environment is good. Operating margins will be down materially, but will be in a robust mid-30% range, given the inherent leverage on the Meta model. 3, updated commentary on 26 CapEx and OpEx, early reads into 27. He points out, in the wake of Google, the market will be expecting Meta to raise its 26 CapEx